This 5-year-old boy weighs 45 kgs. However, when he went for a checkup, the doctor said it was perfectly normal because both of his parents are world champion sumo wrestlers. Moreover, he has a special physique. Everything he eats is absorbed and converted into fat. Hearing this, his grandparents and father were very happy because the son resembled his father, not the neighbor. The doctor even declared that he should never expect to be skinny with such an oversized body. Later, when he goes to school, he definitely won't be able to make friends. Thakteen immediately panicked and tightly held the cake in his son's hands. I don't want to be fat. From then on, he trained diligently every day. But his weight didn't decrease at all. At 7 years old, he already weighed 83 kgs. At 9 years old, he could swim continuously for 7 kilometers. He even defeated a baby shark barehanded. But his weight was still 120 kgs. On the night road, racing cars sped by. Suddenly, Thakteen ran crazily through the night, dragging 10 different tires behind him, shocking the street boys. Thakteen, 11 years old, 180. In spring, he vigorously climbed the cliff. In summer, he would hang upside down with one hand. In autumn, Thakteen lifted weights using only one hand. In the cold winter, when snow covered the path, he still trained tirelessly. Now the scene shifts to a very modern school. We see someone plugging an electric cable into a charger on the desk. Lined up are many different disc players. At the same time, the boy is pressing hard on the game controller. He plays while quietly humming his favorite song. At that moment, a paper ball is suddenly thrown straight at his head. In the confused gaze of the teenage girl, she whispers hoarsely, "Go to class playing games. Aren't you afraid the teacher will catch you?" Hearing that, he smirks sarcastically. Confiscate, what a joke. The teacher's mouth is shut. How would she know? I'm sitting where the guardian angel protects the boys and the whole class. Behind me is Thakteen, his body bigger than the teacher's, almost overshadowing the classmates. Thakteen, 16 years old, 210 pounds. What the doctor said when he was little was only half true. Thakteen probably won't be skinny anymore. He really doesn't have many friends. At the same time, the subject teacher speaks up and instructs, "This period, your class will have a discus throw competition. Thien Ka is coming. Thien Ka is coming." The female students immediately respond, "We know, teacher." Thakteen just arrived. All the students' eyes glued to him as if they had just seen a celebrity pass by. Thien Ka. Thien Ka, do you still remember me? On the other side, a female student nearly lost her mind and raised a stack of money. "Dad, Thien Ka, please protect my pocket money for me over here." The girl shouted with a trembling tone, Thien Ka, yesterday at the school gate I was bullied. Please help me. Thien Ka, help us scare them off." Someone nearby quickly handed over a game console, "Here for you." At that moment, an excited person took out an expensive snack. Thien Ka, next test, please sit in front of me. Here's a Snickers for you. Thakteen immediately raised his hand to activate no snacking mode. "I don't need Snickers. I'm on a diet. Bring up the bitter melon and celery juice here." "Yes." Hearing this, the person pulled out a cup of greenish juice steaming with a flavor that assaults the taste buds. "Yes, big brother, I just happened to have some for you." Just as Thakteen was sipping through a straw, he suddenly changed his tone. "You guys..." Thakteen rolled his eyes, looking around, seeing the friends crowding and shouting his name like fans meeting an idol. "I consider you guys my friends. You guys treat me like a dad." Still, the students kept calling loudly, "Thien Ka." At that moment, a ball suddenly hit him square in the face. On Thakteen's face appeared a scratch neither too big nor too small. Across from him, a silver-haired guy stomped hard on the ball with his foot. He pointed and ordered, "Hey, fatty, you're the Class 10 lock boss, right? How did you get so fat?" Right after, the silver-haired guy pleaded, "We're short on money. Can you help us out a bit?" Hearing this, Thakteen stared at him with contempt. "Why do you silver hair act all high and mighty giving us money? I don't get why you're so full of yourself." Interrupted loudly. "What are you still standing there for? Hurry your feet up." At the same time, groups of students whispered in small clusters, "Who are these two?" The person beside frowned while observing, "Those are 12th graders. Some newly risen bullies lately. Seems like the boxing gang." Hearing this, the other couldn't help but worry. Boxing isn't that game over for them? A weak voice came from the opponent. "That's right. They're done for." Turning back to Thakteen, he just sighed deeply. Thakteen turned and took heavy steps backward. He boldly took the ball from the girl's hand. Just as she swung her arm to throw the ball, it had already fallen into Thakteen's hand. Before leaving, he politely asked, "Let me borrow this for a bit." The girl shouted in dissatisfaction, "Thakteen, what are you doing?" Immediately, Thaktian forcefully threw the ball toward the silver and blonde hair. A powerful voice said, "They're finished." Dust rose thickly, then vanished in the blink of an eye. The ball pinned straight into the goal, leaving an indelible mark. A golden voice clearly said, "Because the gangs around here have all been beaten to pieces by Thien Ka." Witnessing the scene, the silver-haired guy gaped in horror. The blonde-faced one turned pale, eyes wide open. Meanwhile, Thaktin stood still without moving. He picked up another ball, eyes blazing as he stared straight at the group. "Yeah!" Seeing that the silver-haired guy fled on all fours, "Just you wait." The blonde shouted while running, "We'll be back!" Right after the fight ended, the group of students grew even more excited. "Dad? Dad, Dad." No need to revisit old stories. In short, Thaktian has no enemies. Quietly, he turned his head to look at the girl who had frozen like a statue. After a while, Thaktian relaxed his arm. In another corner, the silver-haired and blonde guys panted heavily like sows. At this point, the blonde, frustrated, couldn't help but yell loudly, "Big Brother Die is so embarrassing!" Without regaining face, how could he survive? Hearing this, he angrily grabbed the silver-haired guy's collar and shook him wildly. "How to get it back, blonde?" "You try telling me how to get it back. Is that even a person that's a tank?" Faced with his strange expression, Blonde became confused. "What should we do now?" Silverhair casually threw the guy aside, hinting revenge isn't impossible. Night fell, scene shifted to an incredibly beautiful area. It was an unusual architecture with strange sounds continuously echoing inside. The basketball court began to shake violently. The spectator seats bounced wildly, too. The goalposts shook more and more fiercely. After a while, Thaktien's whole body kept bouncing. He ran while tightly gripping two weights in his hands. Meanwhile, Blonde secretly stared at Thakhtien, stunned and dazed. "What is this guy doing?" At that moment, Silverhair's voice echoed, "I've asked around the watchers here for a long time. Every day he comes here to train until the gym closes. Now at this time, basically no one's around anymore, and he's so strong yet still has a reason to train here every day. I think..." Blonde looked at Silverhair blankly, suddenly jumped up, then grabbed Blonde's shoulder. "If we keep provoking him like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to run away like today anymore." Hearing this, he felt a bit uneasy, but couldn't continue on the outside. "At least you have to discipline him. Discipline him, big brother." "How can I withdraw?" Silverhair silently bent down to look for something, then replied, "No way." After a while, he took out a lock and a tube of glue. Immediately, Silverhair approached the door and tightly wrapped a chain. He used force to clamp two sockets together. Then Silverhair used the lock to clamp across the door. He didn't miss any door, fearing it wasn't secure. Silverhair continued to lock the door with the key, and in a blink the door was completely secured by the final lock. Silverhair wildly grabbed wood and hammered hard. Finally, every step was meticulously completed. Later, Vang Hoi assisted by using glue to brush a straight line down this side. Talkback calmly took out a cigarette and lit it leisurely, walking down the hallway, ignoring Thaktin, who was locked inside. Immediately after, Talkbak brazenly threw the half-smoked cigarette behind him, only showing a smug smile. Vang Ho didn't forget to turn his head and check again. A few minutes later, Thaktin was still running with all his strength. After a while, he finished the final steps of his run. Thaktin fumbled, searching inside his backpack, his eyes looking around. He took out a large scale along with a plastic basket full of balls, and finally a tray with something unclear inside. Then Thaktin quickly pulled an object from his bag and suddenly took a deep breath. He blew strongly into the object with his mouth. Thaktin brazenly took out a children's pool, marking the water level before and after he lay inside. Next, he dropped fixed-weight steel balls into the pool to match the water level he had marked earlier. Finally, he just needed to weigh the pile of steel balls to find out his final weight. The needle on the scale's display started to move gradually, and he silently stared at the scale for a long time. At that moment, the needle suddenly moved quickly and finally stopped at a number. Thaktin immediately calculated mentally 200 plowed 421 kilo. He helplessly shouted, "Oh my god, I could, but I gained 2 more kilograms." Right then, the opposite side suddenly caught fire. Smoke instantly invaded the room, creeping toward where Thaktin was standing. He turned around, bewildered. Smoke hit his face, but at that moment he suddenly snapped awake. Thaktin stood still like a statue, staring intently at the smoke and flames ahead. Without thinking, he immediately grabbed the nearby pool. "Is this real fire?" Thaktin quickly poured water over himself, silently deciding, "Whatever, no point managing so much now, I just have to find a way first." In the urgent situation, Thaktin reached for the door, but with a thud, the door wouldn't open. After a few more sounds, the door outside started to warp. In a blink, it deformed abnormally, with the door corners suddenly cracking in two places at the top. Immediately after, the door was split into two. Inside, Thaktheen put all his strength into pushing the door wide open, pressing tightly on the metal plate, his mind nearly chaotic. At this moment, Thaktheen's face was pale, struggling to breathe. He reached out into the void. Am I dead? The area where he stood began to burn fiercely. The next morning, sunlight shone down on the rubble. Thaktheen reached up through the hard layer of stone, pushing hard against a cement wall. He leaned forward to sit up, shouting forcefully. At this moment, Thaktheen looked around in shock. He was still alive. He looked confusedly at the mirror opposite him. Upon seeing himself in the mirror, Thaktheen froze, eyes wide open. In that moment, time seemed to stop, their gazes locked deeply and unexpectedly. After a while, Thaktheen finally recovered, lightly touching the mirror. Good morning, brother. He showed a horrified expression. You too, trapped inside by fire. Trapped. Then he nearly lost his calm and shouted, say something. Thaktheen frantically held onto the mirror tightly. At that moment, his fingers squeezed so hard they began to bleed. Thaktheen slowly raised his hand, his palm continuously bleeding. He started to feel the strange face on the other side of the mirror. Thaktheen, familiar voice echoed, Brother, you're so handsome. At that moment, his heart raced, and he blankly said, You're really the fat brother transformed. From a duck turned swan now. In another scene, police ambulance and fire trucks rushed along the highway. Meanwhile, Thaktheen slowly turned his head toward the smoke. He involuntarily shuddered. It's over. Almost forgot this was a fire scene. And he had no clothes on. If discovered, it would be the end. Thinking this, Thaktheen glanced around, searching. In an emergency, we need to leave here quickly. First, I have to find something to wear. I only see it faintly drifting with the wind. Thaktheen stared helplessly at the flag. This is Dongsun City, Namkin Street. Pedestrian Street, People's Square. At this time, the crowd was bustling back and forth. Suddenly, a figure rushed past, causing two female students to drop their ice cream on the ground. Witnessing that scene, the eyes of both girls lit up. The aunts and uncles were enthusiastically practicing dance. Just then, that figure dashed past the fan again. What they were holding immediately fell down. The group watched the figure with dazed eyes. In another corner, the driver gripped his phone tightly. I said, you better update the character and card quickly. Otherwise, we'll lose millions every day. Then the bare figure of Thaktheen hit his eyes directly. The car suddenly crashed straight into the tree across the street. The driver kept crying. Manhwa and money didn't matter anymore. My life has been enough. Under the bright sunlight, Thaktheen charged forward full of energy. The other person couldn't help but exclaim, Maybe right now I'm witnessing the toned body of a guy covered only by a piece of bright red cloth. Hundreds of eyes followed Thaktheen's figure. The other person silently confirmed the peak beauty of the noble sun. People moved aside. Heart-shaped petals flew everywhere. Meanwhile, Thaktheen kept running enthusiastically. His face had turned pale amidst the bustling square without him realizing. The crowd's eyes continued to follow him, showing the spirit of exercise, displaying youthful style. The crowd of female students went wild, shouting in unison, Big brother, are you showing off your youthful vitality? Hey, you're such a pervert, big brother. Your bare body is so adorable, but you're also way too handsome. The crowd almost lost their minds and surged forward. Big brother, can I add you on WeChat? Big brother, how do I get to your heart? Big brother, can I run with you? Big brother, leaves return to trees. I return to you. Meanwhile, Thaktheen ran fiercely. Now his face was red from ears to cheeks as he silently hissed inside, Where's my dignity? Moreover, the past scene replayed once again. The female students frantically rushed forward. Thienka is here. Thienka is here. Thienka. Do you remember me, Thienka? Thaktheen couldn't help but sigh. How can it be so opposite? Thinking of this, Thaktheen suddenly broke out in sweat. Damn it! I originally wanted to quietly go home, but the crowd keeps getting bigger. I have to run now. The fans behind chased Big Brother. Big brother, don't leave us. At that moment, Thaktheen suddenly froze. Also, his stomach started growling from the beginning. I suddenly felt so hungry. At the school teacher's office, the homeroom teacher was shocked, picking up the phone. Thaktheen, really? He shouted loudly. What? Sick. The homeroom teacher found it hard to believe. How could there be a virus in this world that makes a young hero like Ondung sick? At that moment, the homeroom teacher looked fearfully at the computer screen. Virus T biological risk. A sudden thought flashed in his mind. Humanity is about to perish. Cut to Thak Thien's house. Inside, the computer was neatly placed on the desk. The screen showed dense lines of text, rapid weight loss. Causes of rapid weight loss. Why rapid weight loss? Causes of rapid weight loss. Images of rapid weight loss. At that moment, the TV suddenly lit up. Idol producer greets everyone. The person politely greeted, "I am a trainee this season. I like singing, dancing, rapping, basketball." Meanwhile, Thach Thien stared seriously at the screen. At the same time, the teenager started shaking his hips. His voice then rang out, "Great. The next second, come closer to me." At the same time, he suddenly started swaying his hips gracefully. In that moment, the teenager turned to look at the fans. The dream is ready. Meanwhile, Thach Thien quickly copied the move of another teenager who flipped upside down onto the ground. Seeing that, he happily joined the rhythm once again, swaying to the "Let Music Go" in round dance of the other teenager. Immediately, Thach Thien spun around and raised his hand in a round motion. Meanwhile, the teenager slowly raised his hand. Hearing the cheers from friends, he quickly jumped to follow. Sweat broke out on his face in an instant. After a while, Thach Thien breathed heavily. Just by following like that, I've already finished the whole dance. It seems like I can imitate all the moves. My body feels light and my skin is smooth, and looking at my appearance compared to others in the group, I don't seem to be any worse. He stared at the mirror and unconsciously touched his cheek. This is a look I never had when I was skinny. Thinking of this, Thach Thien's eyes almost lit up. He couldn't help but smile and wondered, is this a dream? But the physical contact clearly told him this was real. Then Thach Thien laughed out loud comfortably. No mistake, this is really me. At that moment, his stomach growled loudly again. Thach Thien stared blankly at the ground. I'm hungry." All he saw was his foot stepping on a pile of trash. Thach Thien quickly made a decision to find some food. Immediately, he walked quickly toward the noodle box. Suddenly, he realized, right, this must be the 5th meal of the day. At that moment, Thach Thien was immersed in happiness, not yet realizing how scary this was. Cut to a scene at Shandong City's 6th People's Hospital in the internal medicine office, marked in English as Internal Medicine. The chief physician's office. Inside, a decorative plaque hung proudly on the wall, a gift to the chief physician's office. Talented doctor with excellent skills, Hua Tuo, revered for noble medical ethics, 12/2018, from Mrs. Trieu. At the same time, the doctor slammed his hand on the computer screen and clenched his hair with the other. After a while, he calmly spoke. "So this is the patient from yesterday." Thach Thien did not hide it and affirmed yes. Then the doctor suddenly pointed at him and said, "And this is the patient from now." Thach Thien instinctively replied, "Yes, this is me," seriously answering. The doctor suddenly changed his tone as soon as he saw the expression on the doctor's face. Thach Thien was momentarily stunned. The doctor suddenly exploded with emotion, raising his voice to question, "Did you go to the training ground that day? What the hell was that? In short, let's do a full checkup first and see how it goes." As soon as he finished speaking, Thach Thien followed directions to the blood draw area. Then he stood straight to have his height measured. Finally, Thach Thien's body was placed into a scanning machine. 2 hours later, the doctor clenched the piece of paper in his hand and exhaled deeply. Impressive. In front of the doctor were dozens, hundreds of strings of numbers lined up. Instantly, he rattled off a series of statements. Blood pressure, blood fat levels, various proteins. All of your indicators don't have any arrows up or down. Hearing that, Thach Thien's eyes opened wide. The doctor suddenly concluded that all the indicators were in the middle range. He frantically tore at his hair. "If I hadn't seen your tests with my own eyes, I would think you were deliberately messing with me. I can't deny you're not sick." But seeing his confused face, the doctor bluntly declared that his health was somewhat fake. At that moment, Thach Thien could not hide his dissatisfaction and stood up abruptly. He angrily shouted, "So is it good or bad health? What are you saying? I've been losing weight rapidly and now I'm always hungry. I spent 38,000 on tests and all they found was that I'm healthy." The doctor couldn't help but feel frustrated. "How would I know you're denying 45 years of my medical experience in just 2 hours? After a while, he responded wearily, "This is already in the realm of fantasy. I'll prescribe you some traditional Chinese medicine to take home." Half an hour later, on street number 10, in front of the hospital gate, the crowd was bustling back and forth. At the same time, Thach Thien silently cursed that the test results revealed nothing, just nonsense about basic health that wasn't true. Since that night of the explosion, he had been feeling it himself. At this moment, the nerves in his brain involuntarily twitched. Across the street, a female student stared at Thach Thien with an admiring gaze. "Look at that guy. That guy, the older brother over there, is so handsome." The person beside her put on an embarrassed expression. He's looking this way already. Hearing this, the female student grew increasingly excited. He's looking at us. My heart's beating so fast. Her friend began to get nervous. What should we do? Should we go say hi? In that moment, Thak Tien's eyes were almost glued to the pastry in her hand. His mouth involuntarily opened wide and saliva kept flowing down his stomach as if there was a black hole there. In Thak Tien's mind, only two words existed. Food, 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 food. He stared intently at the boy opposite him. Immediately after, Thak Tien shifted his attention to the lollipop. In the blink of an eye, he turned to look at the young teenager. This time, the soda in his hand hit Thak Tien's eyes like a beckoning call. Thinking of this, he began to groan from the depths of his heart. Food, 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 food. It was only seen that Thak Tien crazily ran straight ahead. The scene shifted to the BFC stall, a place not meant for people trying to lose weight. The restaurant staff smiled brightly, welcoming guests. "May I ask, sir?" Before she could react, Thak Tien suddenly slammed his hand hard on the table. The restaurant staff's eyes widened in surprise. So handsome, so handsome. Is this Kabeden? She softly spoke, "Sir, you need." But meanwhile, Thak Tien's eyes gradually went blank. He mustered all his strength to respond, I need. Thak Tien paused for a moment, then started ordering as if chanting a spell. Spicy chicken fillet, set French fries, burger baked potato, burger fried chicken, leg burger, roasted chicken leg burger, taro lava, French fries, roast chicken fillet, hot wings, chicken nuggets, and other menu items, 2 portions each. In an instant, darkness began to cover the stall. Meanwhile, Thak Tien frantically stuffed food into his throat. He kept mumbling spicy French fries, set burger, baked potato burger, chicken leg, 2 portions. The staff looked at him in horror. Aren't you already eating? Nevertheless, Thak Tien kept eating and kept ordering without stopping. Spicy French fries, set burger, baked potato burger, chicken leg. He took a big bite and continued to ask for spicy. French fries, set burger, baked potato burger, chicken leg. In the blink of an eye, the first light of day covered the stall. At the same time, Thak Tien's movement slowed down, returning to his small house. The shadows of trees swayed gently. Meanwhile, on the table, fast food had piled up without anyone noticing. Thak Tien carefully thought to himself, "Since that fire incident that night, I finally thought of this." He looked up at the pile of food. "I'm full now." At that moment, Thak Tien tilted his head to one side. "I remember from childhood I had a passionate love for hamburgers." Thak Tien eagerly took a big bite. He widened his eyes, looking down at the food on the grass. "Mom, what is this? It looks so good." The mother smiled gently. "As long as you're happy." Just then, the father suddenly stood up. He stepped closer to Thak Tien. The father gently stroked his hair. "Then you must remember the names of these dishes. The name is..." Suddenly, he raised his voice and emphasized, "That is junk food." Back in reality, Thak Tien cried bitterly. Since then, he never ate them again. Since then, to lose weight, he silently shed tears, feeling heartbroken. I have been completely vegetarian for 15 days, and Thak Tien's true soul began to awaken. His eyes opened wide, the corners of his mouth involuntarily curved up. Immediately after, Thak Tien raised his head, his eyes shining brightly. "I really miss them." At the same time, he wiped away tears at the corner of his eyes. Long after that, Thak Tien sat waiting slowly on the floor. He kept thinking he was full, and moreover, he even brought leftover food home. It seems like all the fast food chains have bought everything and brought it here. Thinking of this, Thak Tien suddenly became serious. Then based on this amount of food, it should be enough. He immediately raised both hands and counted each finger. After a while, Thak Tien suddenly froze. You could only see him shocked as a day's worth of thoughts flashed through his mind. Thak Tien then put on a pathetic expression, truly ridiculous. He dazedly reached for the weight loss pills. Immediately after, Thak Tien poured them into a glass jar. He just saw Thak Tien tighten his grip on the jar handle while walking straight ahead. At that moment, he lowered his head, his mind stirred with complicated thoughts. When I was gaining weight, I didn't dare to eat, but now that I'm thin, yet the amount of food has increased 20-fold. I could only use some herbal medicine, but the doctor wasn't sure, so I tried to reduce it. Thinking of this, Thak Tien gripped the jar handle tighter and tighter. He questioned himself, is this condition good or bad? At that moment, a sudden heat was transmitted straight to his hand. Thak Tien immediately panicked, cursing, "Damn, it's hot!" Instantly, the tea jar shattered into pieces, hot water splashing everywhere. Thak Tien fell to the ground, clutching his face and crying like a child. Suddenly, Thak Tien slowly opened his eyes. Something was wrong. I only heard the warning sound of boiling water before pulling my hand back. But even if boiling water splashed all over me, I didn't feel hot. A moment passed, and I suddenly felt that using myself was increasingly not really myself. How could this water boil without heating it? Clutching tightly. Immediately after, Thak Thien shifted his attention to his palm, only his own hand. He hesitated, firmly gripping the thermometer in his hand. You could see Thak Thien slowly placing it near his index finger. In an instant, the thermometer shattered into hundreds of pieces. Without thinking, Thak Thien switched to using a meat grilling thermometer. A mechanical voice sounded briefly, "Your grilling temperature is 230 degrees. At that time, Thak Thien had requested 3 days off at home. He underwent countless health tests. Finally, he understood that his body had undergone a miraculous transformation. First, Thak Thien's height dropped from 220 centimeters to 187 centimeters, and his weight went from 480 kilo down to 62 kilo. Second, Thak Thien's eating capacity increased 20-fold compared to before. Third, his metabolism showed no changes, but as soon as he ate, his 2 ears would quickly warm up. That's how the calories from food were burned. And if Thak Thien tried to not eat, he would become hungry. His hands would uncontrollably emit heat multiple times. From that, his body would instantly speed up the process of becoming thin again. The egg in Thak Thien's hand heated up and cracked over his body. From then on, he no longer feared burns. His hands could touch fire without injury. Faced with his strange transformation, Thak Thien only wore an indifferent expression. At that moment, the phone suddenly rang. He was startled and looked down, his eyes fixed on it. Meanwhile, Thak Thien was now very hard to feed. The available balance wasn't bad. The debt due this month was $8,089.83. 1 week later, the school scene appeared. Groups of students eagerly entered the school. At a corner of the hallway, female and male students alternately gazed ahead with admiration. At the same time, 2 male students gathered. One suddenly announced, "You know, the body found in the physical education room was wearing Thien Ka's clothes. Thien Ka was injured in a fire and then hospitalized for surgery." The other couldn't help but find it hard to believe. What? Didn't they say he was just sick and asked for leave? At that moment, a voice echoed directly into the group's ears. The male student quietly looked down at the courtyard below, his eyes full of thought. "Thak Thien hasn't been here for 8 days, 5 hours, and 32 minutes now. I miss him." Suddenly, he startled, dropping the water bottle in his hand. Then he relaxed. In front of him was the handsome figure of Thak Thien. He kept waving goodbye. You couldn't help but marvel, sure enough, when a guy is handsome, he becomes like this. The female student watched Thak Thien's back. Her heart fluttered for a moment. So handsome, so good-looking. The girl beside her trembled and said, I'm about to faint." The male student continued reciting poetry. The guys were stunned, the girls were swooning. That's how people usually are at this moment. Thak Thien stopped. His eyes quickly scanned toward the group. Right after, they stared at him wide-eyed and asked who his classmate was. Hearing this, Thak Thien almost wanted to jump for joy. It took him half a day. Basically, no one recognized who he was. The corner of his eyes involuntarily welled up with sadness. Truly sad, sad to death. There's a mysterious feeling when you've lost weight, and now no one recognizes you. Suddenly, a clear voice came from behind. "Wait, you." Upon hearing the voice, Thak Thien slowly turned around. The female student looked up at him, her lips slightly moving. "Could it be you? You are the one." Hesitating for a moment, then continued. "The person who appeared in my dream last night." At this sudden question, Thak Thien almost froze. He lowered his face to the ground, gently running his hand through his hair. Then Thak Thien shouted in frustration, "I can't take it anymore. I am Thak Thien." The group was almost speechless, each one confused. He pointed at the person opposite him. "Don't act like you're listening to a ghost story. Need me to prove it?" Wang Ximao said. "You were bullied by seniors before and got beaten but didn't dare tell anyone. I even helped you fight back. No third party knows about this." After speaking, Thak Thien exposed more Lu Tiu Vu. "Last week at the internet cafe reported the guy next to you cheating. Then that night, 17 guys blocked you at the door. I helped you get out of that. No third party knows about this." He took a 1-second break, but wildly shouted, "Trio Tak, your head won the fight on Tin Truck Street, but got scared and peed your pants because of some thugs. I stepped in and chased them away. No third party knows." Faced with Thak Thien's firm words, the group was almost motionless. He shouted once more, "Lu Tiu Hua, the Nintendo Switch you gave me was broken." Vuong can attack the maid you bought, got robbed on the way, I helped you chase and get her back. Li Thiet. Vuong, you still owe me 3 cups of bitter melon juice. Stop talking. After a while, the crowd started to stir. It's Thak Thien. Another quietly agreed. Exactly. No doubt about it, it's Thak Thien. In that moment, he couldn't help but wonder, but why did the group of female students almost lose their minds, shouting, "Oh my God, that's Thak Thien." The person beside her immersed in a dream. He's so handsome from the surgery to suck out fat, it's so good looking. He's shorter now, but still handsome. The female student pretended to fall back. Quick, catch me, I'm fainting. The group of female students looked up at Thak Thien, their hearts fluttering. So different, Dad. The male students turned around one by one, all tearing up. No more little sisters, only moms from now on, girls. Then, while everyone was a bit surprised, the homeroom teacher lightly patted Thach Thien's friend on the back. Last week, he was injured in a fire and had surgery to remove excess skin. Now he's back. As soon as they saw Thach Thien, the students almost lost their minds, teasing loudly, "Dad, Dad, Dad." Meanwhile, he leisurely sat down. "I'm back at school." After a while, the homeroom teacher took out a book and his voice rose steadily. "Now we will start the lesson." At the same time, Simao sneered coldly, his face showing malice. All you see is him lifting the computer on the desk. Then Simao quickly pulled out the game controller. In a flash, he excitedly pounded on the controller on the desk. Suddenly, a heel appeared. The woman jumped onto the desk, breaking the quiet atmosphere. She began spreading her arms wide, her legs slightly bent to the rhythm. In a small corner, a female student secretly hid her pet cat inside a box under the desk. Meanwhile, a male student blatantly dozed off in class, contrasting with the excited boy controlling a wooden puppet with his hands. In another scene, a male student lowered his head, his teeth grinding loudly. In a flash, the classroom became lively, everyone focused on their own things. Over here, Simao skillfully controlled the game console. Just then a paper was suddenly thrown straight at his head. A female student whispered accusingly, "Studying? Aren't you afraid the teacher will catch you?" Simao replied with a displeased look, "What are you doing?" He didn't pout at all, but sneered, "What are you joking about? He's just a teacher. How could he possibly find out? That guy, as big as an elephant, is back, and I'm sitting behind him guarding the entire school's students." Right after Simao boldly called out loudly, "Father Thak Thien." Hearing that, the homeroom teacher looked up and stared straight at him. Under the cold gaze of the teacher, Simao suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He quickly lifted this computer, then hurriedly hid it inside the desk drawer. On this side, the female student immediately jumped down below. Meanwhile, the young girl hurriedly hid her pet cat into the far corner of the room. The male student had quietly stepped back at some point, while the teenage boy immediately sat up straight, witnessing the scene. The male student blinked in stunned surprise, and the classroom returned to its usual quiet atmosphere. The female student hugged herself tightly, trembling violently. Why? Turning back to the female student, she burst into tears in frustration. "At home, they don't let me practice dancing here." This was clearly the last place where I could pursue my dream. Despite this, the group of students remained silent, attentively watching the homeroom teachers retreating back. At the same time, Thak Thien focused intently on the teacher's lecture. He suddenly turned around, his gaze shifting to the back. Immediately after, Thak Thien waved his hand while flashing a bright smile. That posture of his caught the attention of the introverted female student, who silently screamed, "Damn, he's so handsome." During the lunch break, the group of students gradually walked back and forth along the hallway. At the same time, Tok Bak stared thoughtfully into the distance. Suddenly, a voice rang out, "Boss Vang Ho?" Startled, he shouted, Boss, I heard Thach Thien is back at school." Could he possibly beat us to death? Crying, he grabbed Vang Ho's collar tightly. "How should I know? You ask me, who else can I ask? I didn't even know about the fire at the sports ground that day." He was almost in tears. "But boss, what are we supposed to do now?" At that moment, Vang Ho's body trembled violently. He whispered hoarsely, "Our stash is still over there. Sooner or later it will be found out." He had mentioned before that he was still practicing assassination. Upon hearing this, Tok Bak suddenly loosened his grip on him, gritting his teeth. "If that's the case, we gotta go all in." Seeing this, Vang Ho hurriedly advised the boss, "Don't think like that. Rather than seeing you beaten half to death by him, I'd rather see you jump off a building." Tok Bak replied irritably, "Please have some faith in me." "Don't worry, I've already prepared." He suddenly whispered into the wind, "Can I sit this one out? I'm scared of dying. He grinned wickedly. Up to you. By the way, do you want to die? Wang Ho answered honestly, no, sir, not immediately. Talk back turned and gripped his shoulder tightly. But even if you don't join, if he finds out about the arson, he'll still beat you to death. Hearing this, Wang Ho couldn't hide his fear and started crying. He shrank into a corner, mumbling nonstop, I was wrong. If I could do it all over again, I'd be a good person from the start. He clenched his palm tightly and raised his voice to remind, stop crying. I told you I've already prepared. Talk Bak turned his head with a scheming look. Don't you know that since he came back to school, he's lost weight? Rumor is he even had liposuction. This is our chance. Wang Ho was momentarily stunned. He stared at him with a confused expression. After a moment, Talk Bak explained seriously, weight is theoretically very important in a fight, especially since he's the guy weighing up to 400 kilos. He paused and then swept his hand across his neck, as if signaling his current weakness. As soon as he finished speaking, Talk Bak quickly turned away. I think somewhere on a certain street in some old garage. Cut to a bustling building outside showing signs of age while Wang Ho cautiously followed. He glanced around. Boss, this is Talk Bak, no explanations needed. He smiled confidently while looking away. Wang Ho instinctively looked in the direction he indicated. In front of him was Min Vung, a man with a strong physique and a terrifying tattoo, standing next to a man in a suit holding a tight iron rod. Below, the young man defiantly spat. At that moment, the group simultaneously turned to look at them. Right then, Talk Bak spread his arms wide. The notorious gangsters from the 20 nearby streets who were not in jail were all here. Min Vung suddenly interrupted, Hey, kid! His whole body was covered by a dark aura. Min Vung glared at him, his voice hoarse. Did you really come looking for us because of that? The leader of Lu Ho Street remained motionless. At the same time, Min Vung and Then Long burst into a wild laugh. If you dare call us here if you can't make us interested. He licked the blade with his tongue and said, You're going to bleed. The leader of Truk Tin Street Then Long heard this. Talk Bak took a deep breath and replied, How dare you cause trouble without reason? I really came looking for you, big brothers, because of an urgent matter. He loudly affirmed without hesitation, I came to you to help surround and wipe out Thak Thien. At that moment, Min Vung's body suddenly staggered, then he collapsed to the ground. Min Vung slammed his bare hand hard on the ground. Surround and wipe out what? Isn't life good enough? Then Long and Talk Bak hesitated and spoke up. Big brother doesn't care and just shouted that. Didn't you say you called us here to eat hot pot, you bastard? Then Long looked at him cautiously. No, didn't we come to eat crab? The knives are all here. Despite Talk Bak's pale face, his hands scrambled nervously. Big brothers, no, that's not it. Quickly, Talk Bak responded, We will eat, we will. After dealing with Tan Thak Thien, I'll invite you guys. Min Vung ignored the explanation and shouted, I'm not going. I'm not going. Then he angrily turned to Talk Bak. You damn liar. After I deal with him, I won't need to eat another meal for the rest of my life. I was bullying some students earlier when I ran into Thach Thien. The scene from the past appeared again. Min Vung stepped closer to the boy. At that moment, Thach Thien immediately noticed him approaching and placing his hand on Min Vung's neck. Without a word, Thach Thien lunged forward and punched him hard in the stomach. Min Vung painfully clutched his arm, which had been broken by the punch. At the same time, Then Long lost his mind, wildly shouting, Don't let me hear that name again! 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 Seeing this, Min Vung looked at Then Long in confusion. Then Long shouted again, How can you be so stupid? Going up against him. Suddenly, Then Long tore open the cloth covering his body. Do you know why? The tattoos on me are from when Thach Thien slammed my head against the wall last time. The image of Thach Thien smashing his head into the wall with his bare hands felt like it had just happened yesterday. Then Long arched his belly forward and shouted loudly, And now they've been wiped away. It was terrifying and utterly tragic. Seeing his appearance, Min Vung sobbed miserably. Don't provoke him. Then Long writhed on the ground. Why mention the name Thach Thien? In an instant, chaos erupted, the group screaming, Oh God, you demon, get lost! Why do you want to hurt us? Short Hair couldn't help but cry loudly. Why? Why must you mention the name that shouldn't be spoken here? This is too painful. People below kept holding their heads. My chest hurts so much, help me, God. At that moment, Tokbok shouted, All right, I get it, none of you can beat him. But then he raised the photos high and the crowd looked on in confusion following Tokbok. At that moment, the announcement came, Look, this is the real Thak Thien now. At the same time, one of the photos hit Min Vung's face. When he saw it, he screamed as if he had seen a ghost. I won't look. I won't look. Tokbok tried to persuade him. Just look a little, just a little. Min Vung kept refusing. I won't look. I won't look. After a while, he looked at the photo blankly. Min Vung pointed at the boy in horror. That's Thak Thien. Isn't that an angel? Seeing that Tokbok quickly confirmed, That's him. That's the Thak Thien of today. After we set the fire, he had surgery and then got skinny. At his confession, the group fell silent, stunned. At that moment, Than Long broke the tense atmosphere. Here, Vuong Min, old Vuong, what do you think? Not sure yet. Decide quickly, I still have to go home and do homework. Vuong Min said hesitantly. Not sure, can we try? In an instant, he regained his composure, his voice booming with authority. So, what's your plan? Silver Hair calmly gave a very simple idea, gang up on him. First, I want to use the most devious trap to lure him out. At the same time, the school bell rang continuously. At this moment, Blondie peeked his head into the classroom. Most of the students had already left inside. He nervously approached Thak Thien's desk. Turns out the devious trap in the boy's hearts was writing a love letter to lure him out. Moreover, I have to be the one to deliver it. I clearly want to be a good guy. Blondie quickly shoved the letter into the desk drawer. Anyway, just put it in quickly. As he stuffed his hand inside, a pile of letters fell out, dropping to the ground with no sign of stopping. Seeing this scene, Blondie was almost frozen. He quickly gathered them into a bag. A sudden thought flashed. Come on, take it and burn them all. Your old man here won't be a good guy anymore. 10 minutes later, Thak Thien walked in from outside, leisurely heading to seat 12. At this moment, Thak Thien quickly pulled out a chair, then suddenly noticed the letter, unconsciously pulling it out. Thak Thien carefully read every line. The letter's heading clearly stated the sender's name was Thak Thien. You've been doing well lately, making me really like you, so after class, hurry here to Street 20, Area 20, Alley 20. We'll gather to confess. Don't bring weapons. If you dare, so do we. If you don't come, you're a coward. As he read the last sentence, Thak Thien fell into a silent state. After a moment, his expression turned angry. 2 hours later, sunlight gradually gave way to dusk. At the same time, 2 male students happily walked past an alley. In another scene, the thugs began to surround Thak Thien. Without flinching, he just looked at them with an indifferent gaze. Meanwhile, the group gave Thak Thien hostile looks. Suddenly, Silver Hair shouted to get his attention. Thak Thien! He aggressively stepped forward. You didn't expect this, did you? Maybe you're still lost in fantasies about the girls, huh? Silver Hair slammed his hand on his chest. Today is the day you die. Seeing him, Thak Thien remained silent. After a long moment, he spoke in a deep voice. No wonder someone wrote a love letter with such an ultimatum. Truly a familiar and adorable face. Speaking of which, Thak Thien stomped his foot hard. You guys... He looked at the group lovingly. Itchy for a fight, huh? And hearing this, Silver Hair strained his neck and yelled, You insolent bastard! We're all ruthless killers, you damn scoundrel! He immediately spun around and shouted behind him, You dare to look down on us! Meanwhile, the thugs had already obediently crossed their arms. Vuong Min trembled uncontrollably. Tienka, good morning, we're just passing by. Than Long quickly interrupted. Don't misunderstand, Tienka. We're just out for a walk, just a walk. Seeing the group's rapid change, Silver Hair angrily questioned, Hey, weren't we here to beat him up? Before Silver Hair finished, Vuong Min quickly covered his mouth and Than Long also clamped his mouth shut. At this moment, Vuong Min angrily cursed, All right, enough, are you tired of living? Don't go looking for your own death and drag us along. Than Long hurriedly explained, Thak Thien, you bastard, don't overthink, we're just going to eat hot pot. No way, Crab. Silver Hair struggled wildly. Damn it, let me go. But on the other side, Thak Thien put on an indifferent expression. So that's it, definitely itching for a fight. He slowly raised his arm, his gaze sharpening. Thak Tien clenched his fist tightly. Then he forcefully twisted his arm silently, considering whether to intimidate a little, seeing that the group was almost stunned. Right at that moment, the sound of bones cracking echoed and the pain immediately spread. Thak Tien's eyes widened to their fullest and he slowly lowered his arm down. Then Thak Tien silently pulled it back behind him, his face briefly tense, his mind screaming wildly. Pain. It hurts so much it feels like bones breaking. No, this shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like this. Could it be that the body's design is actually making me weaker? Thak Tien's face turned pale. What the heck is this? This is like being in boiling oil. Handsome. What's the use of being handsome? He helplessly collapsed to the ground. The strength he had once gotten used to only started to be craved after losing it. Thak Tien looked after his former self's back. I yearn for power. He reached out, trying to touch his former bulky figure, even though at this moment, Thak Tien was almost motionless. The group stared at him in shock. Thak Tien, what's wrong with him? Why does he freeze right after throwing a punch? The person beside hesitated and replied, Who knows, but that punch really made a loud noise. Another quickly moved, strong, too strong. Someone else whispered in the wind, Should we run away? Right then, Min Vuong shouted orders, Wait! That's not right! The group looked at him confused. Vuong Min Old King. Min Vuong looked up and observed slowly. If this was the old Thak Tien, this wall would have long been broken, but right now it's still intact. As soon as he finished speaking, a sudden guess flashed. Could it really be? Immediately, Min Vuong glanced over at Tok Bak. Hey! You told us to come here, now you try it. Momentarily stunned. What? What are you doing? At Min Vuong's suggestion, Tok Bak's whole body trembled involuntarily. After a moment, he forced a friendly smile. As soon as Thien Ka saw Tok Bak, Thak Tien put on an indifferent expression. Tok Bak raised his hand and waved, forcing a smile. Thien Ka, this is just a misunderstanding. Thien Ka will always be my big brother. How could we dare to mess with you? Hearing this, Thak Tien didn't even bother to listen and just scoffed. Meanwhile, Tok Bak didn't give up. He stepped closer, trying to get friendly. Isn't it true that you got injured and went to the hospital and even had liposuction? We're actually here to surprise you to celebrate your discharge. Saying this, he cautiously extended his hand toward him. So please forgive me, okay? And secretly, an evil plan grew in Tok Bak's mind. Once I grab it, I'll increase my strength. On the other side, Thak Tien tensely observed every move. Is this a test? He helplessly looked up at his bleeding arm. But at that moment, Thak Tien's eyes lit up. His palm began to radiate heat. Immediately, Thak Tien raised his hand toward Tok Bak and sneered, Fine, if that's what you want, don't blame me. Thak Tien quickly grabbed his hand tightly, and the heat transferred into Tok Bak's hand. He screamed in pain and collapsed to the ground. Tok Bak shouted wildly, his body thrashing non-stop. At the same time, Thak Tien grit his teeth with a tense expression and faced Tok Bak again. He screamed miserably. Witnessing this, Min Vuong's group stared wide-eyed and mouth agape. They all started running away. Shouts echoed through an alley. Thak Tien is still the devilish Thak Tien saved my life. Before leaving, a man boldly threatened, You tricked us into coming here. It's like giving up your life. Next time I'll kill you in an instant. The group ran off to the other side. At the same time, Tok Bak's entire body collapsed to the ground. Only then did Thak Tien come back to his senses. He looked down at his palm, radiating heat. Immediately after, Thak Tien's body involuntarily leaned back. He breathed out with difficulty, his mind extremely complicated. Just his struggling almost made me lose grip. I almost got knocked down by him. Also, I'm too hungry. I was originally going out to buy food, but got too tired. Thak Tien's eyelashes slowly closed. He couldn't help but feel confused. Am I really this exhausted? What's going on with my body? Before passing out, Thak Tien still worried. This hand is tied up so tight. What am I going to do later? In an instant, his eyes shut tightly. Then Thak Tien fell face first onto the ground. His body lay alone on the cold floor. At that moment, a beam of light shone down on Thak Tien. A female student suddenly appeared. She slowly walked up to him, her eyes suddenly darkening, only to see the object in her hand emitting a strange glow. Somewhere at some school, a very chubby kid. At the same time, a man puffed on a cigarette, a malicious smile curling on his lips. "It's really hot." Then he frowned, looking down at the chubby kid. "Have you remembered the cool stuff we need yet?" The kid quickly banged his head on the ground. "Yes, I remember now." The life of the chubby kid was a constant battle with his own fat. After a while, he hesitantly asked, "So, this time can I give the money?" Before he finished speaking, the man immediately straightened up and punched the door beside him. The man shouted loudly, "Quickly beg us!" Seeing this, the chubby kid panicked and lowered his head. "I beg you, boss, please don't hit me." This chubby kid had been bullied at school for 3 years because of his size. At this moment, the chubby kid lightly pulled on the thin edge of his wallet. The moment he saw it, his face instantly turned pale. The chubby kid helplessly looked down at the remaining money. It's only the start of the month, but the living expenses have already dropped below 300. He painfully calculated, this month is probably going to be very hard to live. Just then, a teenager suddenly pressed a knife to the chubby kid's body. "Give me the money now." Inside, the chubby kid panicked. "No, this is bad." He pleaded desperately, "Please, this is all I have left." The man coldly stared at him. "Who cares? Your old man needs to eat crab, so hand it over obediently." Saying this, he pressed even closer to the chubby kid. "Or else in a few minutes." Thak Tien swung his arm hard, and the teenager flew into the air. He mercilessly helped him stretch out his arms and legs. After a while, Thak Tien calmly threw the teenager to the ground. At the last moment, he smashed the teenager's head into the wall with his bare hands. Meanwhile, the chubby kid's eyes lit up his face full of admiration. A few minutes later, Thak Tien sat still motionless. The chubby kid kept moving nervously. After a while, he weakly spoke, "Boss, thank you for saving me." Thak Tien responded indifferently, "It was just on the way. Besides, I also need to thank you. You helped relieve a burden I've been carrying." Then he poured out a story from a manhwa he was reading. It featured a main character who was very fat and also bullied by others. I couldn't understand it at all, couldn't sympathize. At this point, Thak Tien suddenly turned to the chubby kid. "And you made me actually witness a case of someone who is both fat and bullied. Thank you." The kid shouted helplessly, "I don't want to be bullied either." After a while, the chubby kid said with a choked tone, "So what should I do to be like the boss and not get bullied? I've been bullied to the point that I don't even have money for food this month." He stood before the unexpected question. Thak Tien said nothing. The space fell silent. After a while, he broke the silence. "I've thought about it combined with my own experience, I think." Thak Tien suddenly concluded, "Because you're still not fat enough." Hearing this, the chubby kid gaped. The weight and fighting spirit of the boss in the fading evening light made it even more convincing. Just one sentence and I'm already conquered. Indeed, it's the truth. Thak Tien solemnly proposed, "So I'll help pay for your meals this month. According to my eating plan, you can get fatter and stronger." Then the chubby kid's eyes welled up with tears, overwhelmed. "I'm not fat enough. I have to try my whole life to be as fat as the boss." The next month, the chubby kid ate. Until now, because his money was stolen, he hadn't been able to enjoy good food. But the strange thing was every time he ate with the boss only ate green vegetables. After 1 month, his weight didn't change. But the boss said he had gotten stronger. When asked to meet the bullies here, the chubby kid agreed. He quickly regained his spirit standing in front of the bully group, his voice trembling but eyes determined. "That's enough. I've been bullied so badly that I don't even have food to eat. From now on, I won't give you a single cent." The man angrily shouted, "You pig, you called us here just over this." "I see your face looks rosy this month. You don't look like someone who doesn't have food to eat at all. Not giving money anymore, you're just asking for a beating, huh?" The henchman hurriedly stopped the boss. "Wait." The remaining person quickly grabbed the boss's arm. "Don't get agitated, look at the person behind him." The group immediately turned their attention to Thak Tien. As soon as they saw him, the man involuntarily became fearful. The half-visible figure behind the wall was someone of that stature, Thak Tien. The person beside him whispered softly into his ear, "That's Thak Tien." Last week, the gang member Than Long was beaten unconscious by him lying sprawled on the ground. The week before that, Boss Vuong Min was also beaten by him breaking his arm and ending up in the hospital. Now's not the time to provoke him. Everyone calls him the immovable King Min Vuong. At that moment, the remaining guy added insult to injury. Recently, people have seen him going out to eat with this fat guy, and now he even follows him to fights. "He's the bodyguard for this fat guy." Saying this, he fearfully looked at him. Haven't we seen how his eyes look at the fat guy, like a tigress watching over her cub? Back to Thak Tien, his body began to move. Immediately after, Thach Thien signaled with his hand, "Get out of here." He smirked maliciously, beckoning with his hand in one direction to get lost. In an instant, the group all fled. That day, the fat kid successfully scared off the enemy. Moreover, since then, the gangsters in school have always avoided him. The fat kid felt that he had truly become stronger. But his only regret was that just as he happily turned around, he discovered that Boss Thang, who used to eat with him, had disappeared. Since that day, the fat kid never saw him again, but he felt the two would meet again. The fat kid believed that he was definitely an angel sent by heaven to protect people like him. Suddenly, at the moment, Thach Thien slipped into a trance. A voice kept echoing in his ear. "Wake up!" As that sound came, Thach Thien immediately opened his eyes. He panicked and sat up quickly, his eyes darting around. Hu Tronglei whispered, "I am the one from within your soul, the one who has lived with you for 1,000 years. Hearing this, Thach Thien was momentarily stunned. Then he gave him a disdainful look. Tronglei almost shouted, "Your eyes have already revealed what's on your mind. Don't look at me with that burning stare. Don't ruin the mood. After all, this is our first conversation after 1,000 years apart." Then he lowered his voice and added, "But now is not the time to talk. I called you because you're at the brink of life and death. If I don't warn you, you'll be drowned." Thach Thien repeated in confusion. "Drowned. Drowned. What the hell does that mean?" Tronglei didn't bother explaining. He sternly reminded, in short, "Wake up from this trance, quickly. Later, when you're alone, I'll explain everything between us." As soon as the words ended, the real Thach Thien's eyes slowly opened. At the same moment, the female student frantically poured a bottle of Coca-Cola down his throat. Thach Thien sat up abruptly, water continuously spilling from his mouth. A few minutes later, the female student clasped her hands as if summoning a classmate's spirit. "Thach Thien, you're awake. Sorry, only when I mentioned food did your body react. I thought that might wake you up." Thach Thien looked at her dazed. "Wait, what's the situation now?" "Who are you?" The female student suddenly pointed at herself. "Classmate Thach Thien. Don't you remember? I'm the one who told you in the hallway I dreamed about you yesterday. We just talked this morning." She nervously explained, "When I found you in an alley, I was about to call 911. At that moment, the female student suddenly noticed his stomach, which started making extremely loud noises. Up to here, she was still shocked. "I panicked and helped you get to the nearest BFC. After that, no matter how much I called you, you didn't respond." The flashback moment was recounted by the female student, but whenever someone called for food nearby, his body would tremble. So she bent down and whispered in his ear, "Classmate Thach Thien hamburger." As soon as she finished speaking, the female student almost snapped awake, her eyes lighting up. Immediately after she shouted salad, Thach Thien's whole body trembled. Seeing this, the female student slowly approached him. "Fried chicken." Saying this, she couldn't hide her joyful expression. "Finally, I thought classmate Thach Thien was so hungry he fainted. Then I bought 2 bottles of Coke and knocked them into his mouth. Halfway through, he woke up." He looked at the female student in confusion. "Playing around is fun, isn't it? Playing with my own body is that fun?" After a while, Thach Thien seriously replied, "Anyway, thanks. I'll pay the bill. If someone bothers you later, just say my name." Just as he was leaving, the female student suddenly called after him. "Wait, classmate Thach Thien." She raised her voice to remind him, "Please eat properly. Please eat properly. Don't get so hungry you faint again. No matter what, you have to take care of your health." Hearing this, Thach Thien's cheeks and ears suddenly flushed red. After a moment, the female student couldn't contain her excitement and held out her phone to him. "And here's my WeChat ID." But just like that, Thach Thien finally got home that night, not forgetting to bring a large amount of midnight snacks with him. He always remembered that dream before waking up. He felt that this matter wasn't over yet, and suddenly a fire flared up in his chest. Instantly, Thach Thien's whole body burst into fierce flames amidst thick smoke. Tronglei suddenly appeared. He cast a cold look at Thach Thien, who frowned with clear wariness. "Not bad showing up already." Thach Thien stared at him unconsciously, and in this situation it really felt like a classic scene from the internet, even down to the hair color. Thinking this, he bit his lip in anger, pretending to be calm. Then Thach Thien grabbed his staff, tightly frustrated, and pointed it at Tronglei. "What exactly are you playing at? Say it all in 3 sentences. Everyone's fought me before, and now I don't mind fighting some weird stuff to gain experience." Hearing this, he looked confused and pointed at himself. "Who am I?" Then Tronglei quietly looked at Thach Thien with deep eyes born from fire awakening from fire. "For now, I am once again by your side. My name is Tronglei, also called Truk Dung, deeply asleep in your soul, your soulmate from 1,000 years ago. Thak Tien was almost insane at this point, angrily gripping the wooden staff. 3 sentences done, but you still haven't clearly said what exactly you are. Seeing Thak Tien's unusual expression, Trong Lei went blank, then suddenly exhaled, impatient. That's very much like your previous life. Let me get to the point. I am a soul fragment, a small piece of your entire soul. So all these past days when you stood in front of the mirror dancing, I saw everything. At the same time, Thak Tien's eyes widened in shock and his body began to blaze. Trong Li smiled lightly, raising 2 fingers. The changes in your body right now are because of me. The more Thak Tien listened, the more upset he felt inside. At the last moment, Trong Lei emphasized each word. I truly am your soulmate, but not in this life, only when I was alive. Saying this, he suddenly pressed close to him. In your past life, you were my woman, young man. Immediately, Thak Tien swung the wooden staff hard at Trong Lei's face. Outside, the house shook violently, and the sounds were extremely piercing. In a flash, Trong Lei appeared with a bruised face, quickly speaking, "What are you doing? Stop. Speak slowly." At the same time, Thak Tien suddenly looked down at his palm, then looked up at Trong Lei, smiling maliciously. Sure enough, hearing such straightforward 3 sentences was quite a shock, so I couldn't help it, Thak Tien said calmly. So now you can hit through walls. He quickly urged calm down. You've gone dark. At this moment, Trong Lei couldn't hide his irritation, emphasizing each word. You had to suffer a big blow. Just woke up and found out you're a guy. Back then, people called you Little DM all day long, and now in this life, you've become a boy. Thak Tien held the boy, shrinking his mind, seeming drained. Little DM. That name sounds like I've heard it somewhere before. Thinking of this, he nearly snapped awake, I remember now. Deep memories, those scattered scenes at that moment. Thak Tien suddenly appeared in a fragment of memory. At the same time, Trong Lei smiled excitedly. Little DM. I'm going to manage the tribe now. This is the breakfast I left by your bed. Then he took out a pile of pure gold, boasting non-stop, I've already given you this month's salary. Wake up early, okay? The woman suddenly cawed, dissatisfied, shouting, Get lost, damn it! Get lost. Still, Trong Lei wasn't upset. He just smiled awkwardly. Yes, I'm going right now. This personality of hers is really cute. As soon as he finished speaking, Trong Lei hopped with both legs and quickly stepped outside. Inside, the woman still kept her eyes tightly shut. At that moment, she slightly opened one eye. Right after confirming that Trong Lei had left, the woman jumped off the bed. From inside the wardrobe, Xiao Diem flung the door wide open. The woman's eyes shone brightly. Her mouth involuntarily curved up. Come on. Xiao Diem, that stinky man is finally gone. He smiled with excitement. Baby, I've missed you to death. Immediately after, the two rushed to hug tightly. At this moment, Xiao Diem raised a suggestion. Can we use his money to go shopping later? The woman agreed without hesitation. Up to you. I just want to be with you. In that moment, the lovers clung tightly to each other. Witnessing that scene, Thak Tien furrowed his brows tightly, mouth agape, returning to reality. He was almost stunned. This is a memory from a past life. Moreover, viewed from a third-person perspective. Seeing this, Trong Lei interrupted. What? You remembered. You remembered some things about Xiao Diem, even though the memories from the past life have nothing to do with this life. Thak Tien stared at him. He suddenly felt a bit sorry for him. Thak Trong Lei spoke in a low voice, his tone slow. Let me explain. After you lose weight, your hands will sometimes emit heat, even smoke. Because of this, your body has my fire element. He looked straight into Thak Tien's eyes with a complex gaze. I'm also considered one of the longest practitioners of the fire cultivation system in the world, called the Fire God. So the price for his life. One day near a mountain called Sandbang of Bat Chu, a rock shattered and fell from the sky. At that moment, a man accidentally bumped into Trong Lei. As soon as he saw him, he panicked and shouted, Fire God! Great Fire God! Hearing this, Trong Lei asked, annoyed, Why are you so panicked? Why panic enough to break 2 of my ribs with your head? It's just falling rocks, don't move. You all stand behind me now. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his arm without hesitation. The rock kept falling. Trong Lei kept shouting. Amid the chaos, the group scrambled to run away. Then the rock crashed down, crushing Trong Lei. One of them showed pity. Elder. The Great Fire. God Elder is dead. The person nearby softly questioned, Why didn't the elder run away? Why be so foolish? The other spoke resentfully. That's how Trong-Lei died. On the way back, he kept complaining about the big rock. Before dying, Trong-Lei was carried back by the tribe. Then he fixed his fire element along with his lingering soul inside his wife's soul. When seeing Trong-Lei, the woman unconsciously flinched. He leaned close to her. Wife, don't forget. Don't forget. Trong-Lei spoke earnestly. After I die, you must burn yourself. According to the nature of Trong-Lei's fire element, letting the fire burn herself would not only cause no harm, but also allow his lingering soul to absorb energy and awaken. That way he could continue loving Xiao Diem Diem. But she basically didn't understand my words 3 months before I died. Later, the woman's face became gaunt as she frantically consumed this fire element of Trong-Lei. Although it can burn everything, it requires continuous fuel and can even absorb the host's energy. Without anything left to burn, it will burn the heart and lungs. Nearby, the farmer looked at her in confusion. Who is that starving to death in the field? The person beside immediately responded, Fire God's wife. The other person blankly repeated, Fire God. The man quickly explained, the one who liked to show off after winning but was pinned down to death. At that time, resources were too scarce, so little Diem didn't last long and starved to death unexpectedly. At the same time, Thak Thien froze, surprised really. He looked up at Trong-Lei with pity. In short, don't grieve too much, she never loved you. He barely heard it, his lips gently moving. But I really miss her. She had a very beautiful body. Hearing that, Thak Thien glared to warn, Are you crazy? Don't say that while coming closer to me. Trong-Lei stopped, made a noble hand gesture, then bowed slightly with a casual disrespect. That was you over 10 centuries ago, now it no longer concerns you. For thousands of years since then, no matter how accurate, you have never been burned by fire. How unlucky. Then he suddenly smiled. Until recently, you finally were burned by fire, congratulations. Thak Thien stood dumbfounded, his eyes half open. Hearing those words naturally made him want to curse. What should he do? Trong-Lei calmly declared, In short, I have awakened, and the fire fate in your body was burned from that point. He softly explained, That's also why something unusual is happening to your body. Simply put, your body is a furnace and my fire fate is the flame. Every word of Trong-Lei echoed in his ears, the smoldering heat from your hand and the fuel at the last moment. He gave a brief conclusion, It is your body. Thak Thien froze for 2 seconds, then shouted, Is there no way to shut down this broken furnace? He only gave a faint smile. If I dared to leave it behind, of course, I would have a way to control it. Hearing this, he almost regained his spirit. Trong-Lei suddenly said with a naive look, But I forgot I'm just a remnant soul fragment. Thousands of years have passed, and I've forgotten many cultivation techniques. Thak Thien hesitated. Their eyes met, and immediately he rushed forward, grabbing Trong-Lei's collar. Then what the hell are you talking about? He shouted in fear. Let me go! Don't hit me! Although this feeling was very similar to his past life self, Thak Thien roared in fury. Get lost with your fire soul! Get out of my body! In that moment, his eyes almost shot fire. Suddenly, the gurgling sound from his stomach reached Thak Thien's ears. He clutched his belly and collapsed on the floor, screaming wildly, Damn it! Thak Thien blankly stared at the ceiling. The gurgling from his stomach made him realize it was mealtime now. He hadn't eaten anything for 2 hours since returning home. So finally, up till now, the worst thing was hunger and the harsh truth hitting him together. Before him was a dark patch that seemed to make him faint right in front of this bastard's exit. At this moment, Thak Thien quickly grabbed his phone and swiped through his expenses. Finally, Thak Thien stopped at the last balance. His face turned pale. What the hell, spending more than income? At this time, it was really dark. In this emergency, Thak Thien spoke weakly. Fire God, fire God, fire God, huh? Trong-Lei was momentarily frightened. Why do you still want to hit me? He angrily retorted. Hit you my ass, I'm so hungry I can't move, almost starving to death. I'm just cleaning up leftover food on the table, the fruit I already peeled a bunch. Quickly bring me those 8 packets. Lots of oil, salt, and fat, I love them to hell with them. Later, Thak Thien kept eating the 8 noodles in his hand, not knowing how much time had passed. The table was piled high with plastic boxes from the 8 noodles. Finally, Thak Thien excitedly slammed his hand on the table, threw his head back, and exhaled. a throat-burning breath laughing hoarsely. Alive again, spicy broth really is lethal. Didn't expect it to be so delicious, plus lots of oil, salt, and calories. Truly a straight path right to my stomach. Trong Lei stood aside, watching closely, an indescribable expression. You look really engrossed. Is it that good? Thak Tien patted his belly hard and loudly declared, My life is all thanks to spicy broth. Also, if I starve to death, then my life is on you. He was startled, flustered, waving his hands as if falsely accused. DM, I really didn't mean it. I truly... Hearing this, he shouted fiercely, Don't call me by that pathetic title anymore. Thak Tien began to negotiate. Let's say I'm begging you this life we're not husband and wife. Can we just be siblings? Or we can be father and son. Don't call me little DM anymore. I'm your dad, and I'll call you a dog. You call once, I call once. Hearing this, Trong Lei was silent, didn't respond, then seriously nodded, and raised his hand to swear brotherhood. All right, good brothers. After that, Thak Tien spent an hour dazed in the corner to process this huge amount of information. Trong Lei stepped closer. You're helpless and dismissive. It annoys me a lot. Stay away from me. Thak Tien's appetite is 20 times that of a normal person. Even if he only eats 7 meals a day with this situation, the food expenses will exceed 10,000 yuan. And Thak Tien's father is a sumo wrestler living abroad. They are very strict in managing their finances. The excuse for asking for meal money is basically unbelievable. Thinking of this, he burst into tears like a child. Money, food, money, food. From now on, he feared he could only rely on himself. Thak Tien suddenly thought that becoming a food blogger might be okay, but before stepping into this path, after snapping back to reality for a moment, he didn't know how to handle the next meal. He couldn't imagine food was so abundant nowadays. He might as well have just starved himself a few hours ago. Just then, his phone suddenly lit up. Trong Lei curiously moved closer. You've got a glowing box on you. He quickly grabbed the phone, eyes almost glued to the screen. Inside was a message from Thak Tien's female classmate. Are you there? Don't you miss me? I'm the girl Coca, the one who exchanged numbers with you at KFC that morning. Can I ask you for a favor? Can we talk more tomorrow? I'll pay you back with a meal. As soon as he read the last line, Thak Tien's face stiffened, but his eyes unconsciously lit up with joy inside. Without hesitation, Thak Tien quickly replied, Help, then help. Now hurry up and invite me to eat. Seeing him, he dashed off like the wind. Trong Lei hurriedly called after him. Where are you going? Thak Tien calmly answered, Looking for a way to live. Scene shifts to a restaurant. This place has a strong, old-fashioned vibe. At the same time, the female student and Thak Tien sat properly at the table. Thak Tien devoured the food wildly, his mouth moving non-stop. Sorry for making you wait so late. I'm at death's door. She was momentarily startled. Huh? At death's door. The female student puffed out her chest as if about to say the most important thing of her life. Anyway, I'll be straightforward. Hearing that, he turned to her seriously and said, Who's bullying you? The female student quickly suggested to classmate Thak Tien, Can you come work at my place? Upon this invitation, Thak Tien waited for her to lead, and she spoke quickly as if afraid of being interrupted. My family runs a gym. After you go back to school, I've already planned this. So you can work at my place for a while, zero pay, during which you'll take some promotional photos. To make sure Thak Tien understood, the female student quickly explained, It's a before and after weight loss comparison. I can give you anything. He quickly replied, No, money needed, just cover the meals. She panicked and waved her hand. This isn't a loss. Already given to you, Thak Tien confirmed again. It's okay, just feel free. Scene shifts to the gym. Change yourself. Thak Tien's chubby figure was prominently hung at the entrance. The cover emphasized a brave person daring to face their own weight. Gym to change yourself, get a card, and you'll lose weight. On the opposite side, a crowd rushed in. Everyone was trying hard to compete. The female student looked at the crowd in astonishment. So many people. Maybe all the girls in the world have gathered here. She instinctively widened her eyes. Never seen so many people come like this. Moreover, looking closely, less than half were asking about registration. The female student glanced around. The others were all drooling. At the same time, a shy young woman made a request. Sir, can you be my personal trainer? He responded quickly, like a machine. I haven't reached the level to be a trainer yet, but if you register, I'll do my best to help. As soon as he got the answer, she quickly dashed toward the female student. The young woman slammed down a 3-year membership registration form on the counter. Turning back to Thak Tien, the woman suddenly interrupted. Can I touch your chest? She shyly explained because she wanted to understand a bit about the effect after working out. Thak Tien lowered his head, observing every gesture of the woman. Immediately after, he straightforwardly placed his hand on his own chest. Faced with this sudden action, the woman's cheeks flushed bright red. Meanwhile, Thak Tien showed an expressionless face. In his mind, sounds echoed like memories. That familiar feeling had been experienced many times before, just like a boy in school rushing over calling him dad. Thak Tien silently thought, except it's a bit lighter, there's no difference. At the same time, the woman frantically ran to the senior member female student, the 5-year session before at the Brave Tokiwa Hot Pot Club. The female student excitedly stood up. Big boss, what do you want to eat? In just one morning, the club already has over 300 members. We could even pay in gold. Hearing that, Thak Tien carefully flipped through the menu. Then he said calmly, then order 5 portions of each dish. Her eyes widened. Huh? Eating that much, do you want to get fat again? The female student sadly took out her wallet, but ultimately had to work hard to care for this money-making tree. Although it's a bit expensive, I'll pay myself. Thak Tien's mind silently prayed, if only I could turn back time, that would be great. He lowered his voice and explained more later. Thak Tien set another condition. I hope dinner can be at the quietest time possible at the training ground. I need to train alone a bit for my body. Saying this, he once again stared at his hand radiating heat. The first survival issue has been resolved. Next is how to become stronger. I have to take the initiative. Thak Tien learned in high school that in fighting there are 2 schools of thought. First, the person Thak Tien is so fat that no one can match him. Second, it's said the protagonist is not a student, but the homeroom teacher. The female student bowed her head, breathing heavily. Teacher, please forgive me. She pleaded earnestly, I was studying late last night, so I was late today. The homeroom teacher suddenly interrupted, no. The female student looked up confused. Huh? He whispered for her not to move. The homeroom teacher knelt down and adjusted her uniform's hem. Your bow is crooked. Even if scared, you have to prepare yourself beautifully so the teacher can let you in. He pushed his glasses up gently. Being late is being late. What needs to be remembered still must be remembered, but no matter what, don't stay up late anymore. You all are teacher Lam Fa Thien's most beloved students, 28 years old, homeroom supervisor, speaking carefully. Once forgiven, the female student quickly ran into class. At this moment, the homeroom teacher suddenly turned around, so the next student stepped forward. He sternly questioned, It's already 10 o'clock and you're late too. What about your right hand? Silverhair snapped. Stop whining. Let your dad in. Your dad fell and got hurt. Hearing this, the homeroom teacher's mouth twitched repeatedly. No, that's not right. He immediately judged. This is a burn. The homeroom teacher glared at him. What happened? You weren't fighting, were you? No matter how you look at it, someone has hurt the teacher's beloved student. The legend related to Lam Fa Thien happened 4 years ago. He supervised an exam at some point. 4 years ago, the entire schoolroom fell into silence. At the same time, Min Vuong sneaked a glance towards the teacher's desk. He darted his eyes down at the cheat sheet, writing frantically. At that moment, Fa Tien suddenly slapped Min Vuong's shoulder hard. He didn't look at him, but whispered, Student, don't cheat hand over the cheat sheet now. Hearing this, Min Vuong put on a smug face. He slammed the table hard and stood up abruptly. Min Vuong angrily grabbed Fa Thien's collar. Hey, how old are you to dare boss me around? He spoke in a cold voice. I'll say it again, you're a student and cheating is forbidden, hand it over now. At this moment, Min Vuong looked down in horror. His grip was very strong. He couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. Moreover, he couldn't let go. Immediately, Min Vuong declared bluntly, Your dad isn't doing this anymore, submit your paper. Before leaving, he didn't forget to threaten, just wait. Give it to me. As soon as he said that, Min Vuong slammed the door shut. Meanwhile, Fa Thien pushed his glasses up lightly, his gaze fixed on him. A student cheating during an exam, acting so arrogantly, must have a reason. He seemed to be considered the school's top gangster to the point that teachers turned a blind eye. The biggest local gang boss here is actually his older brother. Min Vuong clenched his palm. So right after school that day, as soon as Fa Thien went outside, he saw him. At the same time, the thug stomped out his cigarette underfoot. Step by step, he approached him. Hey, you're the homeroom supervisor, right? Hearing this, Fa Thien only replied briefly. The thug gritted his teeth. I'm saying having bloody scenes right in front of the school gate isn't good. How about coming with us for a little trip? Seeing that he just gave him a cold glare. Lam Fa Thien was taken away. But that matter didn't end so simply. 7:45 p.m. Lam Fa Thien was taken hostage and left the school on a motorcycle. At 8 p.m., some students who knew about this couldn't hold back and reported to the police. At 9:10 p.m., police raided the usual hangout of the notorious gangsters. Then the police threw the door wide open. Be honest, we are the police. Before they could step inside, the crowd panicked and froze. Inside, Fa Thien appeared with a bloodied face. At his feet were dozens of bodies piled on the ground. Blood everywhere. The police at the scene were terrified. According to reports, there were 23 people in total. 18 had broken bones. 3 were seriously injured. Among them, 2 were completely unharmed. There were cries everywhere. The teacher was covered in blood and gore, calmly sitting there grading papers. He focused on a slip of paper. Min Vuong, you were wrong again. Here you have to use this formula to solve it. Yes, yes. Next to his feet, a student who just said to avenge that teacher was now trembling. He was trembling violently. Yes, yes, I will definitely study seriously. At the same time, the police team was nearly speechless. At that moment, Fa Thien slowly turned his head. He gave a cold smile. Police, huh? You guys are here. Sorry I was threatened by them. I couldn't help but get a bit rough. From that day on, Lam Fa Thien became a legend. He returned to the gym to change himself. Inside, Thak Thien furiously punched the heavy bag. After a moment, he exhaled in short gasps. Right after Thak Thien swung his fist again. At the last moment, he struck the heavy bag flying. 1. Silverhair bit his teeth and tongue in fear. This is bad. This guy is notoriously strict and violent. Lam Fa Thien suddenly raised his arm. That's right. Teacher remembers. He slowly squeezed Silverhair's shoulder. You're in 12th grade, right? His face twisted even more. He basically couldn't get in. But in this critical moment, he suddenly realized something. Wait. Silverhair tightly clasped both my hands, full of joy. But isn't that good? Getting that teacher to help me face them? Then he hesitated before speaking. Teacher, do you remember someone named Thak Thien in 11th grade? Lam Fa Thien heard this and raised his eyebrows in curiosity. He gently pushed up his glasses. 11th grade, huh? Not very close, but I do have some impression. He took the chance to describe him a bit. He's chubby. A sly smile immediately spreading on Silverhair's lips. This is going to be interesting. He pretended to be awkward. No, I'm just asking. Silverhair resentfully recounted, my hand really got burned. It was by a jerk with the same last and first name as him, but a completely different body. He even covered his face and cried to make it more convincing. He threatened me, pretended to shake my hand. I don't know what he hid in his hand, but it burned me until I fainted. That's terrifying. Just thinking about it makes me shiver. I haven't been able to do any homework these past few days. Lam Fa Thien still caught a few words like pitiful little student doesn't want to do homework. Finally, he gave in. All right, don't do homework for now. I'll tell your homeroom teacher. Go to class. Silverhair passed the hurdle and ran off proudly. But after just a few steps, Lam Fa Thien's voice suddenly rose. And you? He instructed him with a dark face. Help me find out where that kid is. Thak Thien elsewhere was taking steady breaths. Trong Lei watched satisfied. Look, this is your current condition. Ding Ning declared himself very healthy. No back pain, no numb legs. Even after hundreds of punches, he wouldn't lose breath. This is the incompatible part that burns inside your body. Then Trong Lei gave a thumbs up for your beloved wife. Among people your age, your health is outstanding. Contrary to that excitement, Thak Thien only frowned in fear. He thought to himself to adjust to work, he took a week off. Conveniently used everything in the gym. Later, no matter what test method was used, it made him realize one thing. Almost half his face darkened. I'm done for Mr. Nyung. He remembered how once a single move could knock someone away. Thak Thien grabbed the other's shirt. Stop joking around. I could have punched this punching bag to shreds with one strike. Trong Lei was pushed down and beaten relentlessly. Calm down, dear wife, good brother, but when you're weak, your looks fade too. That afternoon, Fa Thien stood in front of the building named Gym to Change Yourself. He placed his hand on the glass door and gently pushed, but Thak Thien inside still didn't notice. Later, he could only rely on relentless training to become stronger. It was difficult, but he finally put the dumbbell back on the rack. His palms slowly relaxed and moved toward another dumbbell. With all his strength, he tried to lift it with one hand. Still, he couldn't hold it long. This weight was too heavy. His shoulders reached their limit. Thak Thien grew even more desperate. I'm too skinny now. If this were before, he could have lifted the dumbbell with both hands while jogging. His body weight was too light. No matter how good his appearance, Fa Thien gently lifted it. To his surprise, Thak Thien's eyes widened as he stared at the teacher. He also turned and smiled warmly, greeting him. Despite a disadvantage, he chatted with Fa Thien while doing a few moves. You don't look like a thug. Just keep that innocent smile on your face, Thak Thien, right? Thak Thien remained very cautious. Who is this? How does he know me? The teacher didn't answer immediately but put the dumbbell down. Then suddenly he clenched his fist tightly. The punch came without warning, startling him. But Thak Thien managed to block it instantly with his hand. That's right, Fa Thien's force pushed him sliding several meters backward. His palm reddened and trembled uncontrollably. 1 second later, his flesh and bones felt like they shattered with cracking sounds. The opponent calmly withdrew his hand again. Fa Thien carefully assessed that he could block this move. It should have been able to break his nose directly. His reaction was very quick, truly someone experienced. Sweat poured down his face like rain. What kind of power is this? Just in a moment he could strike like that. My palm felt like it was punched through with a hole. My hand was numb and trembling uncontrollably, completely losing sensation. Thak Thien loudly asked why this guy had come. In response to Fa Thien's question, he calmly pulled out his tie. Me, I am retribution for when you hurt others. There's a bit of misunderstanding. Why is he frowning like that? I think I get it. Now turns out this guy is an accomplice of those people. His attitude became more serious than before. Well, I have nothing more to say. Tronglei hurriedly appeared, intending to stop the two of them. You wait! He was about to speak, but suddenly stopped. His hand also lowered. He chanted a spell and put the flame into Thak Thien's hand before leaving. Let me help you on this side. Fa Thien was still preparing. His hand was smoking. He actively charged forward with a clenched fist. Fa Thien blocked directly, causing the two to confront each other. Sparks kept flying. The scene flashed back 6 years to a children's training gym. A kid with fierce spirit sneered at a newcomer. I'm Long Ba Thien, 13 years old. I'm the oldest here. When the coach is busy, I make the new kids train with you, he declared loudly. But do you know why I do this? Because fighting feels great. Your dad hits hard. He'll beat you until you cry. Ba Thien shouted at a large shadow. Hey, are you listening, newbie? Just because you're a bit chubby doesn't mean you're good. Thak Thien, whose body was several times bigger, silently looked down. Your name is Thak Thien, right? But the kid couldn't even touch a single hair on him. Later, the kid bragged about his 2 black belts, but unsurprisingly, he still got knocked out cold by him. It's really frustrating why so weak. Back to the present. His whole body trembled as if about to break. But despite that condition, Fa Thien had no injuries at all. He casually complimented his opponent a few times, persistent. His 2 hands remained in attack stance as usual. It's been 10 minutes already, right? Still standing strong, Fa Thien continued. Get ready, I'm about to admit defeat to you. But he gruffly interrupted, shut up. Thak Thien frowned, annoyed at being chased and beaten by some nobody. After tiring of fighting and praising, he must be trying to anger me, but I know how to stay calm. The first strike he launched was very strong. Before that, he exchanged a few punches with me, and I returned them, but not fast enough. Then, whenever my fist got close, he immediately stepped back to avoid it. The smoke Tronglei planted began rising in the palm. After lighting the fuse, it burst into a small flame. Thak Thien angrily said, Looks like you got burned pretty badly, you nearsighted fool. At that moment, a few strange thoughts popped into his mind. Clearly, there was wind everywhere, but he felt excited as if he finally found a worthy opponent. Thak Thien decided to see who among them would fall first. He wasn't afraid to accept the challenge, so let's try then. She worriedly asked if someone inside was arguing because she heard voices and immediately came over. When she saw Fa Thien and Thak Thien, she screamed loudly. She covered her mouth in surprise. Teacher Lam, the head monitor, is crazy. He didn't expect the uniform to mean she was a student at the school, and what did she just call the teacher? Her voice was awkward. Teacher, what are you doing? Thak Thien is so handsome. Why are you hitting him? Hearing that, Fa Thien felt like he was struck by lightning. Thak Dao. Thak head classmate, only then did he realize the truth in shock. Half an hour later, at a family restaurant, the 2 students sat while the teacher stood. Master Fa Thien solemnly bowed his head and said, Sorry, it's my fault. I was too quick to trust others, so I directly took the blame from them. It's my fault. She grumbled angrily. That's right, you need to reflect on this. Meanwhile, Thak Thien called out to the master seriously and asked, You hit me 26 times, can I hit you back now? She didn't expect the question and shouted loudly. Fa Thien sighed and nodded in agreement. All right. His hand quickly poured the pepper and stirred it well, then placed the food in front of the other person. Thak Thien grinned mischievously. Eat up, dear. I specially prepared this delicacy for you. Finish it all, don't leave even a little bit. Still, he wasn't too stubborn and walked away. Lately, you've suddenly lost weight. Almost no one recognizes you and mistakes you. Not recognizing you is also an unavoidable matter. Please forgive me. Fa Thien really ate that thing, causing her to panic and want to stop him. Teacher, a certain feeling rose in his heart. This was actually the first time he met an equally matched opponent. At his age, this experience was magical, though he didn't know whether to feel happy or angry. But at that moment when he was hit, his heart truly beat faster. That night, Thak Tin took the bag of food and closed the door. Hey, you have to shoo Trong Lei away to sleep well. If he dares to sleep with me, I'll deal with him. He could choose to sleep in the kitchen, but suddenly he grabbed Thak Tin back. Hey, wait! Trong Lei looked very serious. I have something important to say. A bit curious, he tried to listen in. The afternoon's event was recounted. Your two hands sparked fire during the fight, right? That was when I first experienced that feeling 10,000 years ago. Trong Lei affirmed. Since then, I realized I could regain some power through memories. I understood two things. He raised one finger. First, I remembered how to restore your body to its original state. Difficult, but better than nothing. Then he warned, second, that teacher and his girlfriend. Thak Tin's eyes widened and mouth dropped open in shock. They both have issues. Trong Lei rubbed his temples to recall. That girl has something on her that mortals shouldn't possess. And that teacher's aura, I still remember just now when eating, I accidentally overheard his whispered words. At that moment, Fa Thien did mumble something very quietly. He happened to notice that suspicious action beside him. Fa Thien blamed himself. Lum Fa Thien, you're still so hot-headed, still so impulsive, you're basically unworthy of being human. Because of that, Trong Lei concluded, his aura is basically not human. Thak Tin still didn't understand what he meant, while Trong Lei smirked mysteriously. Interested now, aren't you? Do you know there's an earth-shattering secret in this world? He uttered each word in surprise, an earth-shattering secret. The other replied, seriously, yes. Trong Lei's distant past resurfaced. Before I was born, although I was titled the deity overseeing all people, I was dissatisfied. I was filled with curiosity about the unknown in the world. Turning around, he saw a woman gently approaching. She said something to him and pointed far away. Because of that, he happily left. So finally, encouraged by himself, I set fire and went out to explore. I traveled for 3 years. Thak Tin found it even harder to believe. 3 years. Weren't you afraid of being pranked by villagers? He suddenly raised his voice, then I finally returned. At the same time, I discovered an earth-shattering secret, saying it would scare people. The emotion changed so fast that Thak Tin couldn't keep up. Suddenly, he made a sphere sign while bursting out, I kept heading north, didn't look back. Eventually, he returned to the same place. This world is a globe. Thak Tin's whole body turned to stone. Even he was speechless. After that, he hurriedly bent his legs and ran inside the house. Thak Tin quickly grabbed a book from the shelf. The Encyclopedia of Geography was thrown straight at Trong Lei's face. So you mean this? He held his head in frustration. Wife not interested. He snapped irritably, damn it, I'm going to sleep. Just as he turned away, Trong Lei looked mysterious again. Then I'll get to the heart of the story. The journey continued. Back then, I broadened my horizons about tribes and all kinds of plants. Say hi, Trong Lei, try some kinds of grass yourself. I have rewritten and drafted 7 kinds of medicines that even worms fear, made by your smile to create the warm spirit that nourishes demons for use. Now I remember one of them. He confidently concluded, I am already a remnant soul. If I can make this medicine, maybe I can recall more memories or eventually regain my memory and learn how to use fire flame. Thak Tin immediately asked for the recipe. What's the method? Tell me, I'll write it down. He then listed ginger, garlic, peppercorns, chili. He quickly wrote it down, skeptical. The more he heard, the more it sounded like hot pot fuel. Trong Lei suddenly added, that's right, that teacher is a different matter. It's the inscription on the item you're holding that caught his attention. That girl carries something like a compass. I observed for a long time. Inside, there's some kind of miraculous power stirring. In short, it's not something ordinary people should hold. That is the anomaly of Fa Thien, the teacher mentioned in your words. He really isn't human. Like me, I'm not considered human either. Just a remnant soul. His shadow is dyed blood red. And the aura around him is somewhat insane. These details make Trong Lei even more certain possessing this aura means he's definitely not human. In imagination, Fa Thien laughs cruelly. He might be some kind of monster who blended into the human world somewhere sometime among crowded apartment buildings. On the table is a memorial photo of Fa Thien, in front of it a full incense cup. The curtain flutters from the wind, making a soft rustling sound. 3 incense sticks were carefully placed in the cup by the other person. Unexpectedly, Fa Thien is the one sitting there. My friend, I've come to talk to you again. He began confiding today, I heard a student I was wrong. This rare, fragile look appeared at this moment. The person in the photo smiles brightly. Same face, but different aura. His eyes redden. You're a good person, but I can't look like you. His shadow isn't human, but a solid bamboo stalk. It's really hard to be human. The next day at the school where Thak Thien studies, Tok Bak hit the wall after being hit by someone. He trembled and begged a teacher, Sir, please, sorry, I shouldn't have. Fa Thien gently brushed his hand off before hitting him. He sternly warned, you shouldn't lie to me. The person the teacher hit always hit hard. His arm swung fast, but the teacher had agreed once that one must protect every student in this school. You're still one of those students after all. Fa Thien grabbed Tok Bak's collar, so I can only forgive you. He was slammed against the wall again. He glared threateningly. Don't lie to me again, got it? Yes, Tok Bak was so scared his face went pale. Yes, sir. After hearing his promise, Fa Thien's hand released. Truly, Fa Thien let him step back. This matter is considered done. If you dare do that again, that scary smile will bloom. Teacher will definitely break your nose and arm. Go back to class. The dismissal bell rings after the students' tiring lessons. Some girls start to chatter. Are you here to see that too? That person is so skinny and handsome it makes people faint. That is Thak Thien's classmate. Yes, that's right. He's here. He just stepped out of class. Thak Thien was about to open the classroom door and enter as usual. His movement suddenly stopped when he noticed someone nearby. Fa Thien suddenly appeared and faced him directly. The surrounding female students were confused. Who is that in the hallway? That is the homeroom teacher. The 12th grade supervisor, Lum Fa Thien, who is both handsome and stern. Teacher, why are you here? The male students whispered among themselves. Wait. Teacher, Lam only talked about fighting, but he might be ranked alongside Thak Thien in the school's legends. So aren't these the two best fighters in our school's legends? And yet they ran into each other here? He coldly opened the conversation. Teacher, Lam Fa Thien smiled. The teacher is about to finish work, so he specially came to find you. Want to go home with me and take a walk afterward? Classmate Thak Thien, he led Thak Thien to a lush bamboo bush bathed in sunlight. The warnings from Trong Li rushed back to him. He might be some kind of monster disguised among humans. That's why Thak Thien's eyes were very cautious. Fa Thien naturally noticed, are you on guard against me? Actually, there's no need for that. He gently shared a few days ago, you weren't this tense even while eating. So the strong person behind you told you about the teacher these last few days, right? Suddenly, when Fa Thien mentioned Trong Lei, both were truly surprised. Trong Lei didn't expect this. He could realize that he was right, and Thak Thien straightforwardly admitted that's right, isn't it? Fa Thien's attitude didn't change, indeed it is. Then the flame in your hand can be explained. Talking will be easier now. The teacher absolutely has no bad intentions toward you. He slightly raised an eyebrow, puzzled by that statement. What Fa Thien slowly told a story instead of answering. This land was once a bamboo forest before the school was built. Now only a little bit remains. He raised the watering can in his hand to stop the water flow. He directly admitted classmate Thak Thien, the teacher, is not human. This is where the teacher was born. Thak Thien's eyes widened in surprise. Fa Thien's previous form was originally an ancient bamboo spirit. A mountain demon practicing for 10,000 years can take human shape. The teacher foolishly stayed here day after day, finally becoming a thunder immortal in the sky, suddenly crouching down. That night, the teacher underwent a lightning tribulation. Because of that, smoke and dust covered the whole forest. Eventually, the bamboo forest was burned by lightning. Only one area remained. Fa Thien and the other bamboos were more than half broken. The teacher was gravely wounded and revealed his true form. The real person named Fa Thien came to save him. Taken home to Building 26. The school is located in an open field surrounded by many trees. Fa Thien brought the broken tree trunk to plant in the open land. Its trunk was only a small piece with some burn marks. Yes, the janitor working nearby started a conversation. Is this the new teacher, Lamb? What are you planting books and stuff underneath? He cheerfully replied, it's a bamboo plant. Didn't there used to be a fire nearby yesterday? I picked it up and brought it here. That gentle gaze seemed to convey to the bamboo, hopefully it can live healthily. Back then, it hadn't become a spirit, so it could only listen. You and I are alike, both just arrived here. Later, this will be your home. Over time, many things happened, like a dog casually pooping at the root. Not to mention some people openly breaking leaves to flirt with girls. At that time, Fa Thien was full of marks from mischievous students. The trouble didn't stop when a student kicked a very strong shot. The ball soared up, then shot straight forward. It didn't miss, but hit the tree trunk, making him furious. "Wait until I can move, I will kill all of you." On that fateful day, someone pressed a cigarette butt onto his leaves. It then fell straight to the ground with the smoke still burning. Long Ka and his gang all looked angry. A young man accidentally ran by. "Isn't that Long from grade 12? What's up? You look sad smoking." He suddenly narrowed his eyes as if about to devour the other. The young man trembled. "Hey, what are you doing?" His henchmen shook their heads in disappointment at the situation. He threw an arm over the kid's shoulder. "No matter what grade you're in, if you don't want to get beaten up, you'd better shut up. The guy in front of you, Brother Long, said Long has already sent 52 people to the hospital this year alone." That threat came with Long Ka's expression. "Do you want to be number 53? Your face is turning blue and you're stammering without a word." The guy growled again. "I'm warning you, we're all really pissed off right now. Just one touch and it could explode." The main reason was the school recently got a new teacher. The story was simple this afternoon. Some guys' phones were confiscated. They were caught playing games while hiding in the bathroom. Just as he was enjoying himself, someone interrupted his mood. Fa Tien caught him red-handed. That teacher even dared to check inside the bathroom. We each have to write a 5,000-word self-criticism report. But that's not all. Yesterday at noon, Brother Long called a follower in the class to invite him to lunch, but got caught too. This time he has to write an 800-word self-criticism. Fa Tien even stood next to that student to protect him. That teacher insisted the big brother apologize to the kid. The young man didn't know how to respond after hearing that. His henchman nearby said, "I'll tell you, all of us are spinning like tops and really pissed off right now." Yeah, the guy shoved him away to vent his anger. "I advise you to get lost quickly, or else it'll be trouble if I beat you up right here." The young man immediately obeyed. "Yes, yes, yes, Brother Long." After a moment of silence, he spoke. "All right, let's go to class before we get caught again." The guy scowled. "I really can't stand it anymore. Right, this bamboo was planted by that bastard, right?" The threat made the small bamboo shake. "Next time, water it a little." That day, Fa Tien also came to check the garden as usual. He thought to himself, how did it grow into this, all droopy and withered? "All right, bamboo." Feeling a surge of frustration, he couldn't hold it anymore and shouted, "Hey, you little brat! Your father is seriously injured right now." I shouldn't even say this, but to avoid further damage to my cultivation, I have to. "Move your father somewhere else immediately, or tomorrow my students will burn me to death with boiling water," he exclaimed in shock. "What? What did you say? Are you talking bamboo?" It shouted back. "I can not only talk, I can also be your father." Its voice rang harshly. "I admit I have no prospects like you. It's really an 8th-generation curse. Are you crazy? If someone picked me up, they must be crazy because everywhere else is full of trees. But I'm the only bamboo. Clearly they want me dead. I'm about to be poked to death by passers-by." The bamboo kept complaining. "Most of those tormenting me are the students you teach." It told him about the students' behavior. "I've been burned by cigarette butts. Some even used me to practice martial arts. Others kicked me like a bed. I've been treated like a chair to sleep on, bent out of shape." It angrily cursed. "How many kids have you offended? You torment the students, and they come back to torment the tree you planted me. It's truly a vicious cycle." Fa Tien regained some composure. "What? So that's how it is. You're being bullied by them. So what exactly are you? I think I just saw your mouth move." Now the bamboo had a chance to introduce itself. "Me. I'm an ancient wood spirit, a bamboo demon struck by lightning and now recovering from injuries." Its wicked laugh appeared. "Right, how should I put this? I even have to thank you for saving my life. In a few days I'll be able to turn human. When that time comes, why not let me help you?" It also warned, "I'm telling you, there's nothing good in this school. Your image is pinned down by the students. I have always been quietly watching everyone conspiring with bad intentions toward you. No one thanks you. Everyone is just waiting for a chance to take revenge. Not only the men, but also the women are gossiping. And those unrelated to them don't understand you at all. They all criticize you behind your back." Bamboo eagerly suggested, "So you should take me out of here first. Wait for me to recover, then I'll help you kill them one by one." Fa Tien hurriedly signaled for him to stop and wait. He squeezed the tree trunk tightly and shook it. "Don't hurt those students." It panicked and screamed, "What are you doing? Let me go now!" Fa Tien hurriedly used the haul to uproot the tree no matter what. "No matter what, I have to get you out of here." Then he ran off with it. "This place is truly too dangerous for you and for everyone else." He thoughtfully continued the story. "Since then, I was forced to cultivate at his house. Living there for a while was considered an unforgettable period. 2 bamboos were placed in the corner of the house while Fa Tien sat working at the table. It grumbled and asked, Hey, why don't you let me mess with those students? This question made him stop what he was doing and pay attention to it. Fa Tian smiled very gently because he had been through this phase too. Extreme, gullible, gruff, and confused. His words had no resentment, but it was because of lack of knowledge that he took the wrong path. He leaned on the chair with one hand and confided, I wanted to become a red guide to lead you all. That road looks wide at first, but is actually narrow behind. Fa Tian optimistically said, but there is a road that if you persevere, behind it is full of flowers. Hearing this wisdom, the bamboo was even more shocked 100 times over. He then turned to ask its opinion. By the way, let me say, I think you're pretty gruff. Do you want me to be your confidant student? It shyly refused him immediately. He said, Are you crazy? Why did you suddenly bring me up? Fa Tian's tone grew quieter. Since then, for about half a year, the teacher quietly stayed at his house, cultivating during the day, talking at night. The days passed so peacefully that the teacher forgot. Thak Thien was curious to know the hidden meaning behind those words. An Yin clenched his teeth with hatred. The teacher forgot he was still alive. This is extremely dangerous. The beginning of spiritual power struck by lightning injuries was when he was at his weakest. It was also when the monks were most eager. He covered half his face to reassure himself. The teacher shouldn't have stayed at his house. On a beautiful morning, the sun gently shone down on the bamboo placed opposite the dining table. On it was a plate of delicious watermelon. It softly asked him, Let me say this. If you water me with watermelon juice, I will be like a person with a sense of taste. So please leave me some watermelon. Fa Tian smiled and immediately agreed. Okay. Suddenly, someone knocked urgently on the door. He put down the watermelon, went to open the door. Come in. Waiting outside was Long Ka and his 2 henchmen. The other guy smirked and said, Hi, teacher, good morning. He was scared by their appearance. Why didn't you wait? The noise outside caught the bamboo's attention. What's wrong with your eyes? They said nothing and roughly pushed Fa Tian inside. All 28 students' eyes were full of hostility. Fists were raised, recalling a while ago. Anyone wanting to use the restroom was locked outside. Long Ka monopolized him to smoke with his henchmen inside. He muttered, I'm about to be finished. I've been caught enough times this term by that crazy teacher, and it's been recorded 3 times. If this continues, I'm afraid I won't graduate next year. The guy next to him was no different. Same here. The worst part is now I'm scared to be caught and don't dare to pee for others in the exam. And I still have thousands of words left. The other guy shouted loudly, That damn teacher! How dare he let us be so reckless? Even smoking a cigarette, you have to wait for him to go to a meeting before daring to light up. The door suddenly pushed open without any hesitation. The 3 people inside flinched. It was a natural reflex. That young man wore the school's uniform and smiled mysteriously. Long Ka silently assessed him. I've never seen that face before. His subordinate shouted loudly, Hey, who are you? What year are you in? Do you know the rules of this school? When we were smoking in the bathroom, no one else was allowed inside. But the other person showed no fear. His lips even curled up slightly. He got angrier. Hey, boss, we're really pissed off here. You brat. In his anger, he charged forward, wanting to beat him up. The student stopped him with just one finger. That light touch like a cloud made him freeze. Sweat poured down his cheeks. His whole arm lost feeling. He couldn't move anymore. The other calmly replied, Violence and anger really show a lack of discipline. And what year am I in? I'm not a student here. I'm older than all of you combined. Wearing this uniform is just to blend in more easily. Some of his words were lost. I am a monk. His fingers intertwined with the other's collar. I have been watching you all for a long time. This fist shouldn't be aimed at me. You always have someone you hate, some magic hidden inside. He said, Why not nurture this hateful desire even more? Let it grow bigger and then release it. Beat him up. Then the 3 of them were hit by that energy straight in the head. Because of that, now Fa Tian was being assaulted by them. Their feet stomped down hard. They held his hands tightly. I must leave my footprints on his face. He still tried reasoning with them. Hey guys, what are you doing, teacher? The gruff guy replied, What teacher? I've wanted to beat you up for a long time now. They squeezed his neck hard. Why do you want to interfere with us? Why do you want to change our way of life? He struggled, unable to finish the sentence because the teacher wants us to, then punched him straight in the face. I don't care what the teacher wants. His eyes full of hatred. People like us just ignore and don't care. That way the teacher is happy and we're happy. Everyone can live happily and peacefully. Isn't that good? Fa Thien's reason got stuck in his throat because the teacher wanted to discipline them. Then the bamboo plant helplessly shouted from the corner, "Hey, stop it now! Stop it! If this keeps up, I'll die!" Fa Thien trembled, trying to persuade them. That's because the teacher has seen that a bigger path is a happier one. The bamboo plant panicked. It widened its eyes, taking in the whole scene. His eyes began to close. The teacher must show you. With that bamboo pot's unfinished wish. His arm dropped in the room, instantly emitting a dazzling light that shattered the glass door. The 3 students were thrown straight down the stairs because they deserved it. The loud noise woke Fa Thien from his coma. A familiar voice sounded, "Are you awake yet? Can you lie down a little longer?" He was fine, and the students I threw from the 3rd floor were also fine. The bamboo had turned into a human and was sitting next to me. Consider it as saving your life. He was so shocked that he sat up straight. "Who are you?" The bamboo still had some leaves on its head. It was the bamboo he had nurtured. "I turned human earlier than planned to protect you, teacher." It smiled. "Now that I have a human body, I want to experience the path you always talk about. Do you want to teach me, teacher? The 9 stories end here. There is nothing after this." Fa Thien laughed. "Why is it not to your liking? What's the matter?" Lee picked up a piece of watermelon but hadn't bitten it yet. The villain just appeared. "Shouldn't there be a big battle? I haven't even bought watermelon yet." He lightly lifted his glasses because after that the villain basically didn't appear anymore. Since then, the teacher clearly explained the situation to him, and the teacher always protected him. Actually, at that time, they had a bit of an agreement. Now, I'll be honest, the situation between the 2 of us is extremely dangerous. Those students attacking you were being controlled because there was a cultist hiding in the school and he was plotting against my body. Fa Thien didn't care about that and blushed silently. "What you just said sounds a bit pervy." K-Truck immediately pinned him down and told him to shut up. As for Lao Tu, in short, I simply can't run away anymore. Although I've been healed, if I leave now, it could be a long time before your beloved students are all slaughtered one by one, their souls extracted and used to force me to appear. So he anxiously asked the other party what should be done. K-Truck immediately affirmed what to do. Of course, the shadow can't leave, not even a step. I must always be by your side to protect you, and I must not attract anyone's attention. If that's the case, then there's only one way. He came up with a great idea. How about I conveniently protect you while also experiencing the path you mentioned? Want to try teaching me? The last thing he got to do was tap the chalkboard with a stick. The word desire in Jiu means hoping to obtain something that shouldn't be obtained. Remember that clearly, this is the core point of this test. The students in the class showed some strange expressions on their faces while studying. Fa Thien pushed his glasses up as usual. Those people whispering down there? Did you see that? The ruler in his hand is K-Truk, the one he took from behind the mountain to plant earlier, then dug up and brought home, and finally made into an honest ruler. Before, when he chased us off the school grounds, we thought he was just a nature-loving tree protector. K-Truk also warned him to be gentle, but Fa Thien immediately shut them up. The ruler can't talk. He hesitated, concluding that the tough story was from 36 years ago, and since then I have been the teaching ruler. Fa Thien added jokingly, but it really did its job supervising and preventing everything. He said resignedly, all right, stop talking. The more I hear, the dumber I feel." He was about to explode with anger, but this plan also had flaws. I was used for a full 36 years, then broke 5 chalkboards. Because it was too strictly guarded, there were no loopholes. Lao Tu protected it until he retired. The villain still never appeared. Fa Thien silently judged this guy probably liked to play roles in La Dynasty operas, always scowling nearby. This kind of book sounded like preparing for a showdown the night before. Suddenly felt overwhelmed, too annoying. A gentle breeze blew from somewhere, causing a few bamboo leaves to flutter. After that, everything went very peacefully. A few years later, that teacher also passed away from illness, generally a short life. Because it was afternoon, the sky turned golden, and he finally hoped for the teacher here. He gently took off his glasses, continuing to follow those footsteps here. Fa Thien really was on his sickbed comforting him. "Brother Truck, you really live longer than me. I probably can't be with you anymore. Do you want to try the feeling of being a teacher?" So he nostalgically looked at the keepsake, and finally the teacher became a real teacher. The current glasses were left by him. The teacher supposedly protected him together with him and continued his life story. After sharing, Fa Thien put the glasses back on. The teacher told all the memories. Now the teacher still continues here, partly to fulfill the deceased's wish. A few years ago, the teacher submitted a fake resume to the school, but since he's been teaching for 36 years, giving lessons is no problem smoothly switching topics. Secondly, thinking that the culprit from years ago is still somewhere watching him. His teacher's intuition tells him so. Classmate Thak Thien called you here just to tell you everything and also to ask you not to tell other classmates about the teacher not being human, okay? Thak Thien fell silent for a few minutes, then suddenly smiled brightly and said, "The homeroom supervisor is a monster. Even gaining 5 pounds this month would surprise me. So many things not worth mentioning. I won't tell anyone." Fa Thien showed a happy expression on his face. He thought silently that these words were honest. Listening to the teacher's stories was basically not scary at all. On the contrary, it felt warm. His experiences with people were no different. There were tears and smiles. So nothing is impossible. The two continued exchanging words downstairs. "Teacher, please help me with this a bit. If you were a type of tree, then could you tell me where the ingredients for this potion come from? Let me see." The vision gradually narrows in the eyes of someone named 2C from long ago, but actually he's observing them from above, always waiting for an opportunity. The following days passed peacefully as well, so after chatting with the teacher for a while, everything went back to normal. Thak Thien sat in the cafe devouring each bowl. Next, he went to the gym, making the girls go crazy over him. The school gym he helped with also got attention, especially from the boys. "I heard Thien's dad went after another gang of thugs recently. Your dad really is my dad." The young man boldly offered some water. "Dad, try some bitter melon juice." He refused right away. They didn't want bitter melon juice. They wanted to Netflix and chill. When he got to class, the desk was already full of letters in all colors. He had some free time and opened them to look, catching the attention of the girls. At night, Thak Thien sat focused at the computer, but there was also a strange kind of expansion in his mind. Fa Thien showed surprise during their earlier conversation. "So you just got in touch with cultivation?" He nodded and replied, "That's right." Then suddenly took out paper and pen to write something down. "Then I have to send you that website." Thak Thien frowned deeply in confusion. He handed over a slip of paper with the website. It really had a lot of essential stuff. "In short, find time to register, and when you do call me." Thak Thien was typing the words in there, pressing the button to enter that mysterious website. Just looking at the first page, Thak Thien couldn't help but be surprised. The blue light from the screen reflected in his wide-open eyes. The website's title boldly printed a line, "Website Protecting Traditional Craftsmanship," with a slogan below, "Enduring Together." Courage reflecting. Mutual support. Sharing glory and shame. Not only that, there were many sections serving the people, like research on refining pills, hygiene therapy, housing insurance, cultivation methods, social security, and transportation lookup. Even the search bar suggested topics right away. "Welcome to China's convenient cultivation realm, breakthrough platform." Greeting Thak Thien, he slammed the table and shouted, "Holy crap!" He quickly picked up the phone and called, "Hello. What kind of state does a cultivator of this era actually live in?" Fa Thien, on the other end, smiled and said, "You've opened the website, right? Then there are roughly 1.2 million of them." The phone almost slipped from his hand. The voice from there continued, "In this world, those with extraordinary abilities also include teachers." He explained further to Thak Thien Ru, sleep-controlling water and fire toxin, crafting monster transformations, soul-stealing and body possession, all sorts of cultivation. But among us, there are probably about 1.2 million people. His story became more mysterious, always calling him bro, and Thak Thien was unconsciously drawn in. The closing line from Fa Thien broke the imagination heir to traditional craftsmanship. "Yes," he calmly continued, "these are all considered intangible heritage, so there's a specialized website for these disciplines. In short, to prevent misinformation, some seniors created it, and it's said the government even participated." Thak Thien couldn't believe it and shouted, "What the hell are you talking about?" Fa Thien gave an example. "Look now, the speed of sniper bullets is 1,000 meters per second, and most cultivators can't dodge the barrel of a regular person's gun. One shot and they're down. Every year, many rogue mutants exploiting special powers illegally are shot dead. Also, anyone doing things against the rules will be reported. The teacher has been criticized many times over his teaching methods in recent years. Before, some cultivators practiced the old way in that environment. Many cultivation methods waste energy and bring no benefits. Wang Thak, a 25-year-old, carefully practiced poison cultivation, but the results were poor. And every day he was scolded by his wife. "You don't work properly, and we're even poorer." The story ended harshly. Before long, the family next door moved to the city for work and soon bought a big house with a wide gate. No one in the village wanted to learn anymore. Even Thak Thien had to agree. It's true, cultivation in this era really is unrealistic. Fa Thien added casually, "Anyway, just look for some info here, it won't hurt. Later on, there will be an heir to guide you to interact with other cultivators. Every year, there are activities organized by the cultural department to bond the devotees together, like traveling matchmaking gatherings, youthful heart talks, and sermons." After hearing all that, his face darkened, getting more and more unrealistic. Fa Thien suddenly mentioned something. "That's right, every month you can also receive cooking oil and some rice." Thak Thien immediately paid attention. "Wait, how much can you get?" She asked. "How much can the teacher receive?" Thanks to the teacher's guidance, he created a profile type for awakened dimension-traveling people with a question below, describing the supernatural ability. "Please mention a literary work that most closely corresponds to your state and fill it in." His hands radiate heat every day. Next to him is a lingering soul calling himself the Fire God, who has been asleep for thousands of years and just woke up. He immediately turns to ask Trong Lei, "Haven't you started learning to read online literature these past few days? There's a novel inside that talks about a brat who has a ring, and inside that ring is some guy named something. I need to fill in the form. Hurry up, you can get food, that's great." A few days passed, and after filling out the form, he didn't receive any feedback for quite a long time. But on the other hand, something big really happened. Thak Thien came to school looking even more sparkling than usual. He pushed the chair and gently sat in his seat. His eyes looked down under the desk, and it seemed like his rummaging hand found something. When he opened it, the item inside blinded his eyes so much he had to shout that was clearly a very valuable silver ring. "Here it is." Thak Thien immediately stood up. "Who gave this to me?" Writing letters every day and putting them in my desk drawer was one thing. But now they're even giving gifts. Truly someone influential and way too extravagant. The students in class all had 3 words on their faces. The silver ring was even engraved with very delicate English letters. Then, exactly the next day, Thak Thien pulled out a new item again. On the 3rd day, it was a big heart-shaped box of chocolates. On the 4th day, that person gave Thak Thien 3 trillion. The 5th day surprised him even more because the gift came from a luxury brand. To sum up, after 5 days, his desk was overflowing with no empty space. Sweat poured down his face like a stream. This is way too showy. And in his mind, he immediately thought of a mixed-up government soldier. It seemed like they were trying to figure out what I like. Also, the gift giver didn't sign their name. Why can't I return it? They want to serve the people but don't want to leave their name behind. That day, he brought home the love letter box and opened it. Trong Lei asked, "What are you doing?" He rummaged through them and replied, looking through each letter, "They're all sweet words. Dear Thien, by the time you read this letter, you owe me a hug. If you don't throw it away, you owe me a kiss. If you keep it, you owe me a date." Thak Thien seriously concluded, "These are all the love letters I received after losing weight. I've kept them all. Everyone is so serious. I can't just read and throw them away." By the way, to summarize a bit, the purposes in these letters are divided into 3 types. He pointed out the key points one by one, wanting to know weight loss tips, wanting a father, simply craving my body, especially the last type with extremely passionate feelings, hoping to reach out from the letter and touch my face. These things were beyond Trong Lei's imagination, so he silently questioned. But the box in his hand was about to be thrown away in anger. And no matter what type, I read everything 3 times and still couldn't find. Which letter always gives me such precious gifts? Is there a Santa Claus here? Trong Lei joined in. Yeah, I'm jealous too. Thak Thien immediately slapped him hard across the face. Later, he had to hold his cheek and say, "You really think like that?" The person wants to stay anonymous because they don't want you to return the gifts. Thak Thien suddenly spaced out for a moment, perhaps thinking that if these items could both make you happy and also give you a sense of burden like leveling up an idol. He tiredly leaned back in the chair, unable to bear it. "Stop!" Thak Thien loudly declared, "I also have principles when handling matters. I don't need these things, just leave the tags and labels on them as they are. Sooner or later, I'll return them." Actually, there's still a red mark on his cheek from frustration. It's really something my stomach growled loudly just when my mood was all mixed up. He dashed straight into the pile of gifts like a hungry tiger. Trung Lee hadn't even managed to say you. Thak Tien ignored his words, hungry. I remember among the things I received there was chocolate. I ate one piece first. Just one piece. Yes, President Trio was even very proud. Besides, recently I've been giving him gifts too, secretly every day for a week now. I really like him. I'm so thoughtful and caring. Do you think we could become friends? The newcomer Thak Tien's whole body trembled, limbs stiff, unable to respond. President Trio had some thoughts arise, but recently Thak Tien has lost weight. If he's not thin anymore, then he's not cute. I hope he can gain a bit of weight. The person who had been scaring Thak Tien was excitedly typing. Dai Hung sat on the bed behind, covered with pictures from fat to thin of his sister smiling happily. That's right. What grade are you in? Which class? Tam immediately shifted his gaze to Dai Hung. Some people like the rich, not just wealthy. The rich also like different things. Some people like handsome guys. Dai Hung shyly confessed his feelings, and some people like chubby. She bashfully thought of Thak Tien. I already have someone I like. I already have someone I like. This is a little secret hidden deep in a young girl's heart. Her story begins to be told. The young girl named Trio Dai Hung is a very ordinary girl. When she was very young, Dai Hung's math test scores were not impressive. Next to it was a very thick book, 5 years of junior high exams, 3 years of mock tests. She picked up a pen and furiously wrote something in her notebook. Her father entered, holding a stick. Dai Hung, stop it now. Seeing him, she immediately shouted loudly. Her father's voice boomed, Dai Hung, Dai Hung. Frustrated, saying he was annoying, was he about to beat her for her grades? Her father only raised his hand to threaten a few times. How could her father do that? She clearly had never passed a single class since childhood. Moreover, not only for her father had also never passed a class in his whole life. He sat down and reminded her, give it up, you won't become talented. It's the family's talent. You simply don't have the aptitude for studying. The main reason is the headband you wear with the character for achievement. Realizing his mistake, Dai Hung froze for a moment, her mind slowly processing the situation. Then she hurriedly took off the headband from her head. Her father smiled mysteriously, but there was more than just one path to success. Today, father will tell you the family's secret. The stick he carried was actually a secret place to hide things. He took out an old book titled The Mystery of Yin-Yang Feng Shui, 15 characters. A stick transformed into a flag fluttering proudly with his aura. Her father confidently said this book is a manuscript passed down from the Western Zhou period. Once learned, you can read fortunes anytime later. It's extremely accurate. This flag is very eye-catching and powerful. If you memorize the contents of this book clearly, you can open a fortune-telling stall across the street. He proudly affirmed this is the profession our ancestors left for our family. He is nicknamed Trio the Great Fortune Teller. He has foretold the fates of many elders. Even without good grades, you can become wealthy through your own effort. Her father muttered quietly, but don't count on winning the lottery. If you do things beyond the natural order, you'll face retribution. Dai Hung over here was crying. She wants to pass the class. Her face drooped, unable to find any hope. But just a second later, she realized, wait, that's not right. If you just want to pass without making mistakes, that's fine too. Dai Hung immediately suggested to her father, maybe you should quickly teach me fortune-telling. Her father was surprised. He thought he would have to advise her for a while longer. On a periodic test day, a few coins fell onto Dai Hung's desk. She began to chant. First check, the fate structure. Second check, the major luck. Third check, prosperity and decline. Fourth check, advance or retreat and death. Fifth check, if the spirit is auspicious or not. Sixth check, the position of the hexagram. Seventh check for escape from bondage. Eighth check for tears. Ninth check, external evaluation. The coins jingled and then gradually settled still. She opened one eye slightly to check that the 3 picks still showed the Yang character. Dai Hung focused on the question and made a decision. This one chooses C. Another time, she even used tarot cards, leaving the class amazed. Each card turned in her hands like some kind of magic. She concentrated, calling out tarot cards. Tarot cards, please tell me. At that very moment, Dai Hung opened her eyes wide. She drew a card from the shuffled deck. The card was held tightly between 2 fingers, whether the sun was reversed or not. Dai Hung quickly filled in the answer. Okay, this one chooses X. The teacher on the podium reminded 15 minutes left to finish the test. Please quickly check your papers again. The blackboard clearly showed the final exam questions, yet the whole class was still captivated by her actions. Dai Hung held the pen and wrote delicate strokes. She used both hands, pouring her emotions into the pen. Soon the magic circle was successfully drawn. The last step was to push the pen into the circle. It rolled next to the paper that already had the reading method written. Dae-hung excitedly thought, I have the answer. She was no longer afraid of the test paper in front of her. So simple, just that simple. Not even cheating. I'm relying on my own ability to do it. A bright smile bloomed for the first time in the exam room. I did the test. After so much effort, Dae-hung received the red diploma from Nam H City Middle School. The diploma showed all scores marked as 60. Thus, the young girl had passed the final level of middle school and moved up. The results were considered average. She got into the same school as Tak Tien. In a room with a sign for Class 2 team, a teacher sat at a desk holding some papers, looking tired. Fa Tien suddenly pushed the door and entered. He asked, "What's wrong?" "Why the long face?" The other person was startled. Homeroom teacher Lum An shared with difficulty. "Nothing much. Just one student is troubling me." The two teachers held test papers in their hands. The multiple-choice section was almost all correct, but the more complex parts were almost all wrong. The Chinese essay had 2 arguments, both full of mistakes. For math, physics, and chemistry, only the final answers were written. What kind of abnormal answers are these? He held his face and sighed. Kids these days are really incomprehensible. After hearing this, Fa Tien slightly raised his glasses. He smiled. Truly interesting. The other person was even more puzzling than interesting. Fa Tien's face suddenly turned frightening. If that's the case, we definitely need to come up with some countermeasures. How about I set the literature exam for 11th grade this time? After that, the school's exam rules were changed. The final exams on the last day, 10th and 11th grade lecture halls were mixed together. The proctor in the lecture hall announced to the 11th grade room that today they would take the last 3 subjects, history and politics. The test papers were passed hand to hand down to Dae-hung, who took the exam calmly. Immediately after, she noticed something unusual. Her worldview fell into an awkward silence. What is all this writing filling the pages? Why is it only an essay prompt? Dae-hung worriedly thought the topic was too difficult. Basic fortune-telling couldn't figure it out. But tears also began to flow. I clearly relied on fortune-telling to stabilize my semester performance already. Moreover, it's all basic arguments you can't just answer randomly. Not only do I get no points, but I also have to submit a blank paper. Why does every tear streaming down her cheek because of fear look so abnormal? Previously, Dae-hung was scolded by the teacher in front of the class for what kind of answer? An invisible answer. The classmates whispered among themselves. High school life was just starting to brighten up. Now it's completely ruined. But she still tried to reassure herself that she could at least copy a few sentences from the book. She couldn't submit a blank paper. Dae-hung's eyes kept darting up and down. Bad luck for her, the sharp eyes of the proctor noticed it. Now she finally understood. Under the proctor's staring gaze, the young lady realized she had failed herself. She didn't even know how to cheat on herself. Her father's whispered words from before rushed back. If you cross the natural order, retribution will come. Dae-hung shed tears and almost accepted the truth. Is this my retribution? She clenched her hands tightly, praying, God, everyone is good. Everyone is kind. I'll pay any price. Please help me. Time ticked by. The clock hand spun a few more turns. Then Tak Tien finally opened the door and walked in. His large body brushed past her. Sorry, teacher, I'm late. Dae-hung, sobbing quietly, was caught by that voice. Her eyes suddenly widened in surprise. Tak Tien appeared like an angel with wings descending to earth. Dae-hung had to use the most delicate words to describe that moment. When the person sat near the young lady on all 4 sides, the whole room darkened. It was the silhouette of a mountain. She looked up and away for a moment. Reflected in her eyes was the vast space ahead. Dae-hung tearfully lifted a hand, unable to resist the urge to reach out. Her finger gently touched Tak Tien's back. When she withdrew her hand, her flesh itself burst with a surge of emotion. After confirming it was real, Dae-hung's eyes sparkled even more like a loving father's. A feeling of safety that brought such reassurance. At that moment, warm sunlight shone into her soul as she thought and copied the cheat sheet with all her might. Dae-hung's life changed from that point on. Her grades weren't great anymore, but she vowed to study seriously and not cheat again. But besides that unexpected meeting that day, the image blocking her view remained deeply engraved in her mind. That large silhouette made her feel happy. The young lady began to develop feelings for him. The young lady started investigating him. The young lady had someone she liked.